When a single mother's teenage daughter vanishes into the storm-soaked streets of Queens, the desperate search leads to a chance encounter that will shatter everything she thought she knew about safety, power, and the price of protection. What begins as a mother's worst nightmare becomes an offer she can't refuse, from a man whose calm eyes hide secrets darker than the rain-drenched night around them. If you're drawn into stories of unexpected protection, dangerous attraction, and lives transformed by a single moment of crisis, stay with me until the end. Hit that like button and comment with your city so I can see how far this story reaches across the world. The rain came down in sheets that night, turning the cracked sidewalks of Queens into rivers of reflected neon and shadow. Jessica Turner stood at her apartment window, phone pressed so hard against her ear that her knuckles had gone white, listening to the automated voice tell her for the fourth time that the number she was calling was unavailable. Chloe's phone was off. Her 15-year-old daughter's phone was never off. Jessica's breath fogged the glass as she scanned the street below, searching for any sign of the bright yellow raincoat Chloe had been wearing when she'd left for tutoring 3 hours ago. The session should have ended at 8. It was now past 10, and the storm had transformed their neighborhood into something unrecognizable, hostile and dark, with streetlights flickering like dying stars. "Come on, baby," Jessica whispered, redialing. "Pick up. Please pick up." Nothing. The silence on the other end felt like a physical weight pressing against her chest. She'd been a single mother for 3 years now, ever since Ryan had walked out with barely a goodbye and a forwarded addiction that had already drained their savings. 3 years of doing everything alone. The bills, the meals, the parent-teacher conferences, the midnight worry sessions when Chloe came home quiet and withdrawn. 3 years of being enough for both of them. But tonight, being enough wasn't working. Jessica grabbed her jacket, a thin, worn thing that wouldn't do much against the downpour, and her keys. Her hands were shaking as she locked the apartment door behind her. Mrs. Chen from 3B poked her head out as Jessica rushed past. "Everything okay, honey?" "Chloe's not home yet," Jessica called back, already halfway down the stairs. "In this weather? Lord have mercy." But Jessica was already gone, pushing through the building's front door into the teeth of the storm. The rain hit her like a slap, immediately soaking through her jacket and plastering her dark hair to her face. She didn't care. Terror had a way of making you immune to discomfort. The tutoring center was 6 blocks away, down streets that felt different at night. During the day, this part of Queens was loud and alive. Bodegas blasting salsa music, kids playing handball against brick walls, old men playing dominoes under awnings. But after dark, especially in weather like this, the neighborhood shed its friendly skin and showed its teeth. Jessica had grown up here. She knew which corners to avoid, which alleys never to walk down alone, which groups of men to cross the street to bypass. She taught Chloe the same survival rules, the urban navigation that became second nature when you didn't have money for taxis or safer neighborhoods. But knowing the rules didn't make her daughter invincible. The tutoring center was dark when Jessica reached it, metal gates pulled down and locked. A handwritten sign taped to the glass read, "Closed due to weather. See you Monday." Jessica's stomach dropped. The session had been canceled. Chloe would have seen the sign, would have turned around and headed home. So, where was she? Jessica pulled out her phone again with trembling hands, rain making the screen difficult to read. Still nothing. She tried Chloe's best friend Maya, but the call went straight to voicemail. Same with 2 other classmates whose numbers she had saved for emergencies. This was an emergency. Think like Chloe. If the tutoring was canceled and her phone died, what would she do? The library. Chloe loved the library 2 blocks over, the one with the big windows and the reading room that stayed open until 9 on Fridays. She would have gone there to wait out the rain, to charge her phone, to... Jessica was already running. Her shoes slapped through puddles, sending up sprays of dirty water. The rain was coming down so hard now that she could barely see 10 feet ahead. Lightning cracked across the sky, illuminating the empty streets in stark white flashes that made everything look like a crime scene photograph. The library was closed too. Dark. Empty. Jessica stood there in the rain, feeling panic start to claw its way up from her stomach into her throat. This wasn't like Chloe. Her daughter was responsible, careful, always texted when plans changed. Even when her phone was dying, she'd find a way to send a message, borrow someone else's phone, something. Unless she couldn't. The thought hit Jessica like ice water. What if something had happened? What if Chloe wasn't avoiding her calls but literally couldn't answer them? Queens wasn't the worst neighborhood in New York, but it wasn't the safest either. Girls went missing. Bad things happened, especially to young girls alone at night in the rain. Jessica forced herself to breathe, forced herself to think past the panic. Where else? Where else would Chloe go? The park. Riverside Park, the small one with the pavilion where Chloe sometimes met friends. It was another 4 blocks away, in the opposite direction from home. It didn't make sense for Chloe to go there in this weather, but nothing about tonight made sense anymore. Jessica ran. Her lungs burned, her legs ached. Water filled her shoes, and the cold had worked its way into her bones, but she didn't slow down. Fear was a powerful fuel, and maternal fear was the most powerful of all. The park appeared through the curtain of rain like something out of a nightmare. Dark trees bending in the wind, the old pavilion barely visible in the distance. The whole place was deserted, exactly the kind of location horror movies used right before something terrible happened. Jessica didn't care. If there was even a chance Chloe was here, she had to look. She cut across the muddy grass, her phone's flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. The pavilion was a simple concrete structure with a roof and 4 open sides, the kind of place that provided shelter but not safety. In the summer, it was full of families having barbecues and kids playing basketball on the adjacent court. Now it looked abandoned, forgotten. Then Jessica heard it. A voice. High and frightened, and unmistakably her daughter's. "Stop! Please, just leave me alone!" Every molecule in Jessica's body turned to ice and fire simultaneously. She broke into a sprint, rounding the pavilion just in time to see the nightmare she'd been imagining all night made real. Chloe was backed against the far wall of the pavilion, soaked and shivering, her yellow raincoat torn at the shoulder. A man loomed over her, 30s, heavy-set, with wild eyes and a jerky, unstable energy that screamed danger. He had one hand on the wall beside Chloe's head, blocking her escape. "Come on, pretty girl," the man was saying, his voice slurred. Just your phone and whatever money you got, and I'll let you go. Easy, right? Nothing to cry about." Jessica's scream tore out of her before she could think. "Get away from her!" Both Chloe and the man whipped around. Chloe's face crumpled with relief and terror mixed together. "Mom!" The man's expression darkened. "Oh, great. Another one. Look, lady, this doesn't concern you. Walk away." "Like hell I will." Jessica's fear had transformed into something sharper, more dangerous. Maternal rage. She stepped forward, placing herself between her daughter and the threat, even though the man outweighed her by at least 80 pounds. "Chloe, get behind me, now." Chloe scrambled to comply, her hands clutching at the back of Jessica's soaked jacket. The man laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You think you're going to stop me? You think I won't go through you to get what I want?" "I think you're going to turn around and walk away while you still can," Jessica said, surprised by the steadiness in her own voice. Her hands were shaking, but her words came out cold and clear. The man took a step closer. "Big talk from someone who's about to—" "The lady told you to walk away." The new voice came from behind Jessica, from the rain-soaked darkness beyond the pavilion. It was male, calm, and carried the kind of authority that made everyone, including the would-be mugger, freeze in place. Jessica spun around. A man stood at the edge of the pavilion, rain pouring off his shoulders like a waterfall. He was tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in an expensive-looking dark coat that seemed completely out of place in this neighborhood park at this hour. Even in the dim light from the distant street lamps, Jessica could see the sharp planes of his face, the dark hair pushed back from his forehead, and eyes that assessed the situation with unsettling precision. He looked like he'd stepped out of a different world entirely. A world where storms were conquered, not endured. "This ain't your business either, pal," the mugger said, but there was less confidence in his voice now. The stranger took a single step forward into the pavilion, moving with a fluidity that suggested complete physical control. "I'm making it my business. You have 5 seconds to leave before I make this very unpleasant for you." "Yeah, you and what army?" The stranger didn't blink. "I don't need an army." Something in his tone, the absolute certainty, the complete lack of fear, made the mugger hesitate. The man glanced between Jessica, Chloe, and the stranger, calculations running behind his bloodshot eyes. "Whatever," he finally muttered. "Crazy-ass people. Not worth it. He started to back away, but the stranger moved faster than Jessica thought possible. One moment he was standing still, the next he'd closed the distance and had the mugger's wrist locked in his grip. Actually, the stranger said quietly, I don't think so. The mugger tried to pull free, then tried to throw a punch with his other hand. The stranger deflected it almost lazily, then did something with his grip that made the mugger cry out and drop to his knees. Here's what's going to happen, the stranger continued in that same conversational tone, as if he were discussing the weather rather than physically dominating another human being. You're going to apologize to these ladies. Then you're going to walk to the nearest police station and turn yourself in. If I hear about you bothering anyone in this neighborhood again, our next conversation will be significantly less pleasant. Understood? I'm sorry, Jesus, I'm sorry, okay? Let go. The stranger released him. The mugger scrambled backward, clutching his wrist. His earlier bravado completely evaporated. He shot one terrified look at the stranger, then ran, disappearing into the rain and darkness. Silence fell over the pavilion, broken only by the drumming of rain on the concrete roof. The stranger turned to face Jessica and Chloe, and for the first time Jessica got a clear look at him. He was perhaps in his late 30s, with strong Italian features and dark eyes that seemed to see everything. His coat was clearly expensive, tailored, and completely impractical for this neighborhood. Everything about him screamed money and power. And danger, definitely danger. Are you both all right? He asked, his voice gentler now. Chloe nodded, still pressed against her mother's back. Jessica found her voice, though it came out shakier than she would have liked. Yes, thank you. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't... She stopped, overwhelmed suddenly by the full weight of how bad this night could have gone. You did well, the stranger said, addressing Jessica directly. Not many mothers would run into a situation like this. Most would call the police and wait. I don't wait when it comes to my daughter, Jessica replied. Something flickered in the man's eyes, respect perhaps, or recognition. I can see that. He glanced at Chloe. You're safe now. Let's get you both out of this rain. He started to shrug out of his coat, but Jessica held up a hand. We're already soaked. You don't need to... I insist. He draped the coat over Chloe's shoulders. It was far too large for her, but it was warm and dry on the inside. Chloe looked up at him with wide eyes. Thank you, she whispered. The stranger nodded, then turned his attention back to Jessica. My car is just outside the park. I can give you both a ride home. No, he added, seeing Jessica's hesitation. I'm not going to hurt you. If I wanted to hurt you, I wouldn't have helped you. It was a twisted kind of logic, but Jessica found herself trusting it. Or maybe she was just too exhausted and overwhelmed to argue. Either way, when the stranger gestured toward the park exit, she followed, keeping Chloe close. A black car idled just beyond the park gates, sleek, expensive, with tinted windows and a driver already waiting. The stranger opened the back door for them, and Jessica helped Chloe inside before sliding in herself. The interior was warm and dry and smelled faintly of leather and something else, something expensive she couldn't identify. The stranger got in on the other side, leaving a respectful distance between them. He said something in rapid Italian to the driver, who nodded and pulled smoothly into traffic. Where do you live? The stranger asked. Jessica gave him the address, then studied him in the dim light from the passing street lamps. Who are you? Why were you in the park at this hour? My name is Gabriel Marino, he said. As for why I was there, he paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. I was taking a walk, thinking. I like the rain. It was clearly not the whole truth, but Jessica was too tired to push. Well, Mr. Marino, I don't know how to thank you. That man, if he had... She stopped, unable to finish the sentence. He didn't, Gabriel said firmly, and he won't bother anyone else tonight, or any other night, if my reputation holds. Your reputation? Gabriel smiled, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. Let's just say I'm known for being persuasive. They rode in silence for a few minutes. Chloe had fallen asleep against Jessica's shoulder, exhausted by fear and relief. Jessica held her close, breathing in the familiar scent of her daughter's shampoo beneath the smell of rain. She's lucky to have a mother like you, Gabriel said quietly. Jessica looked at him. I'm lucky to have her. She's all I have. Something in Gabriel's expression shifted, became more human somehow. Less the imposing stranger and more just a man. No father? Not anymore. He left 3 years ago. We're better off without him. Gabriel nodded, as if this confirmed something he'd suspected. It's not easy raising a child alone. You sound like you know something about it. I know about difficult circumstances, Gabriel said, about doing what needs to be done to protect the people you care about. He glanced at Chloe, still sleeping. She looks like you. Same determination in her face, even when she's scared. The car pulled up in front of Jessica's building, the one with the flickering lobby light and the graffiti by the mailboxes that the super kept promising to paint over. Gabriel's driver got out and opened an umbrella, but Gabriel waved him off. I'll see them inside, he said. Jessica wanted to argue, to say they'd be fine, but the truth was she felt safer with this stranger beside her than she had in a long time. Gabriel helped Chloe out of the car. She woke just enough to stumble toward the building and walked them to the door. Jessica unlocked it, then turned to face him. Thank you, Mr. Marino. Really, I don't know how... Gabriel pulled out a business card, simple black with embossed silver lettering, just a name and a phone number. If you ever need help again, call this number, day or night. Jessica took the card, feeling the expensive weight of it. Why would you do that? You don't even know us. Let's say I have a soft spot for brave mothers and their daughters, Gabriel said. His dark eyes held hers for a moment, and Jessica felt something pass between them, recognition, understanding, or maybe just the acknowledgement of a debt that could never quite be repaid. Besides, Queens is a dangerous place. It's good to have someone watching your back. Are you always this mysterious? Gabriel's smile was genuine this time. Always. It keeps life interesting. He started to turn away, then paused. Jessica, may I call you Jessica? She nodded, surprised he knew her name. Then she realized Chloe must have said it in the park. Jessica continued, take care of yourself and your daughter. And remember, anytime, any reason, make the call if you need to. Then he was gone, walking back to his car through the rain like it didn't bother him at all. The black vehicle pulled away from the curb smoothly, expensively, and disappeared into the night. Jessica stood there for a long moment, holding the business card, feeling like she'd just stepped sideways into a different reality. The rain continued to fall. The street remained just as dark and dangerous as before, but something had changed. She had a number now, a lifeline, a mysterious stranger who'd appeared out of nowhere and saved them without asking for anything in return. Gabriel Marino. Jessica memorized the number before tucking the card carefully into her wallet. She had a feeling strange, inexplicable, but certain that she hadn't seen the last of him. Upstairs, she helped Chloe out of her wet clothes and into pajamas, then made her hot chocolate and wrapped her in blankets on the couch. Chloe was quiet, processing, occasionally touching the expensive coat that Gabriel had insisted she keep. Mom, she finally said, who was that man? I don't know, baby. Someone who helped us when we needed it. He was scary, but also not scary. Does that make sense? Jessica thought about Gabriel's calm control, the way he'd handled the mugger like it was nothing, the expensive car and the cryptic warnings. Yeah, she said softly. That makes sense. That night, Jessica lay in bed listening to the rain and thinking about dark eyes and business cards, and the feeling of being protected by someone who clearly lived in a world she couldn't begin to understand. She thought about the way Gabriel had looked at Chloe with something almost like sadness, and the way he'd insisted she call if she needed help. What kind of man carried that kind of authority? What kind of man walked through Queens in the middle of a storm like he owned the streets? And why, despite all the red flags and warning signs, did Jessica find herself hoping she might see him again? The rain fell. The city slept. And in her wallet, a business card waited like a promise or a threat of things to come. 6 days passed before the second shoe dropped. Jessica fell into her usual routine, freelance translation work at her tiny desk, making meals from whatever was cheap at the bodega, helping Chloe with homework, pretending everything was normal. But it wasn't normal. Every time she looked at the black business card tucked into her wallet, she remembered Gabriel Marino's eyes and the casual, terrifying way he'd controlled that mugger. She Googled him, of course. Found almost nothing. A few mentions in business registries, something about import/export, but no photos, no social media, Nothing that explained who he really was or why he'd been in that park. Chloe had nightmares for 2 nights, then seemed to bounce back the way teenagers do, resilient and adaptable. She asked about Gabriel once, whether they should return his coat, but Jessica had told her no. Somehow she knew the coat was meant to be kept. A reminder. Or maybe a marker. Thursday evening changed everything. Jessica was at her desk, working on a technical manual translation from German to English, boring but well paid, when the first shot rang out. She knew immediately what it was. When you grew up in Queens, you learned the difference between a car backfiring and gunfire. This was definitely gunfire. Chloe screamed from her bedroom. Jessica was already moving, running toward her daughter's room when the second and third shots came, closer this time. Glass shattered. The window in the living room exploded inward, spraying fragments across the floor. "Get down!" Jessica threw herself into Chloe's room, grabbed her daughter, and pulled her to the floor. More shots. Shouting from the street, tires squealing. The sounds of urban warfare that usually stayed confined to the news and happened to other people in other neighborhoods. It lasted maybe 2 minutes, maybe 5. Time does strange things when you're pressed against the floor with your daughter sobbing in your arms, listening to violence tear through your home. Then silence. Terrible, ringing silence. Jessica waited 30 seconds. A minute. Finally risked lifting her head to peer out the bedroom door. Their apartment looked like a crime scene. The living room window was gone completely, just jagged teeth of glass in the frame. Rain was already coming in, soaking the carpet. A bullet hole punctured the wall above the couch, right where Chloe usually sat to watch TV. 6 inches to the left and lower, if Chloe had been sitting there, Jessica tasted bile. "Stay here," she told Chloe, her voice surprisingly steady. "Don't move. I'm just going to check. Don't leave me, Mom, please." "I'm not leaving. I'm right here. I just need to see if—" Sirens. Finally, sirens approaching. Jessica called 911 anyway, gave their address, was told officers were already en route. She and Chloe stayed on the floor holding each other until the police knocked on their door 20 minutes later. The detective who took their statement was a tired-looking woman in her 40s named Rodriguez. She examined the damage, took photos, and asked questions Jessica couldn't fully answer. "Did you see the shooters?" "No, we were inside. Did you hear what started it?" "No, just the shots." "Do you have any enemies? Anyone who might target you specifically?" "What? No, we didn't. This wasn't about us." Detective Rodriguez softened slightly. "I know. I'm sorry. This wasn't about you. Gang conflict. 2 groups fighting over territory, and your building just happened to be in the crossfire." She gestured to the shattered window. "You're actually lucky. 2 people were hit down the street. One's critical." Jessica felt the room tilt. "Oh my God. We'll have more patrols in the area for the next few days, but—" Rodriguez trailed off, and they both knew what she wasn't saying. More patrols wouldn't stop the next shootout, wouldn't make this neighborhood safe, wouldn't protect a single mother and her teenage daughter from being in the wrong place when the violence erupted again. After the police left, after Jessica had taped cardboard over the broken window and swept up as much glass as she could, she sat on the couch with Chloe and stared at the bullet hole in the wall. This wasn't sustainable. She'd always known the neighborhood was rough, but she'd convinced herself they were managing, that if they just kept their heads down and didn't get involved in anything, they'd be fine. Tonight had proved that was a fantasy. "Mom," Chloe said quietly, "I'm scared." Jessica pulled her daughter closer. "I know, baby. Me too. What if it happens again? What if next time we're not lucky? We'll figure something out. But what? What could they figure out? Jessica was barely making rent as it was. Moving to a safer neighborhood would cost twice as much, money she didn't have. She couldn't afford security or protection or anything that might actually keep them safe. Her hand moved almost of its own accord to her wallet, pulling out the black business card. "Anytime, any reason," Gabriel had said. Jessica stared at the embossed numbers. This was crazy. She didn't even know this man. He could be a criminal, a con artist, someone who preyed on desperate women. The way he'd handled that mugger, the expensive car, the vague answers about his business, all of it screamed red flags. But he'd also saved Chloe, had been genuinely kind, had offered help without asking for anything in return. And right now, with a bullet hole in her wall and her daughter shaking against her side, Jessica didn't have a lot of options. She picked up her phone. The number rang 3 times before a male voice answered. Not Gabriel, but someone else, professional and clipped. Yes? I'm trying to reach Gabriel Marino. He gave me this number and said to call if I needed your name, Jessica Turner. He helped me and my daughter last week in Riverside Park. A pause. One moment, Miss Turner. Music played classical, something orchestral. Jessica waited, her heart hammering, half expecting to be told this was all a mistake, the number was fake. Gabriel was Jessica. His voice, calm and certain, exactly as she remembered it. Are you all right? The genuine concern in his tone almost undid her. No. No, we're not. There was someone shot at our building. A gang thing, the police said. The window is broken and there's a bullet hole, and I don't... She stopped, hearing the panic in her own voice. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have called. I just didn't know what else. Where are you right now? Home. Our apartment. Is Chloe with you? Yes. Good. Stay there. Lock your door. I'll be there in 15 minutes. You don't have to. Jessica. His voice was firm but not unkind. Lock your door. I'll see you soon. He hung up. Jessica sat there with the phone in her hand, wondering what she'd just set in motion. Chloe looked at her with wide eyes. Was that him? The man from the park? Yes. What did he say? He's coming. 14 minutes later, Jessica had been watching the clock. There was a knock at the door. She looked through the peephole to see Gabriel standing in the hallway, looking exactly as composed as he had in the rain-soaked park. She opened the door. Gabriel's dark eyes swept over her, assessing her for injuries, then moved past her to take in the apartment. The cardboard-covered window, the glass still on the floor, the bullet hole. His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Tell me what happened, he said, stepping inside. Jessica recounted it. The shots, the broken window, Chloe's scream, the detective's explanation about gang violence. Gabriel listened without interrupting, his expression growing darker with each detail. When she finished, he walked to the window and peeled back the cardboard to look at the street below. Stayed there for a long moment, thinking. This area is becoming a war zone, he finally said. 2 groups fighting over territory. Neither side cares about collateral damage. He turned to face her. You and Chloe aren't safe here anymore. I know, but I can't afford to move somewhere better. I've looked, believe me. But the rent in safer neighborhoods is... I'm not suggesting you find somewhere on your own, Gabriel interrupted. I'm offering you an alternative. Jessica's stomach dropped. What kind of alternative? Gabriel moved away from the window, his presence somehow making the small apartment feel even smaller. I own several properties in Manhattan. One is a secure building with a vacant apartment. 2 bedrooms, good security, safe neighborhood. You and Chloe could live there. It sounded too good to be true, which meant it was. In exchange for what? In exchange for work, Gabriel said calmly. I run an import-export business. I deal with international clients and contracts. I need a translator, someone fluent in multiple languages, someone I can trust. Your resume says you speak English, Spanish, French, and German fluently, with working knowledge of Italian and Mandarin. That makes you valuable to me. Jessica blinked. How do you know my resume? I looked you up after we met. Due diligence. I like to know who I'm helping. It should have felt invasive, creepy even, but somehow it just felt practical. The way Gabriel said it, like it was the most natural thing in the world to investigate someone before offering them help. What exactly would I be translating? Jessica asked carefully. Contracts, correspondence, business documents. All legitimate, he added, catching the skepticism in her eyes. I promise you, Jessica, I'm not asking you to do anything illegal. Then why the secrecy? Why the vague business descriptions? Gabriel smiled slightly. Because I value my privacy, and because the world I operate in requires discretion. But discretion isn't the same as criminality. He gestured to the apartment. You called me because you need help. I'm offering it. A safe place to live, steady work, security for you and your daughter. In return, you provide your skills as a translator. It's a fair trade. How much would the rent be? It would be covered as part of your compensation package. Salary, housing, and benefits. It was too much. Way too much. Nobody offered this kind of deal without wanting something more. Mr. Marino. Gabriel. Gabriel, Jessica corrected. I appreciate the offer, but I need to understand what I'd be getting into. You're essentially asking me to uproot my daughter's life and move into a property owned by a man I barely know. A man who won't even tell me what his business really is. That's fair. Gabriel pulled out his phone, tapped something, and held it out to her. On the screen was a Wikipedia page for Marino Imports, describing a family business specializing in Italian goods, wine, textiles, specialty foods. Revenue in the millions. Established 1952. This is what I do, Gabriel said. Legally, officially, on the books. My family has been doing it for 3 generations. What I don't advertise is that some of our clients are powerful. They value discretion. They pay well for it. And they occasionally engage in activities that exist in legal gray areas. Like what? Like moving money through international channels to avoid excessive taxation. Like facilitating deals between parties who prefer not to have public records. Nothing violent, nothing that harms anyone, but also nothing I discuss with authorities or put on LinkedIn. Jessica studied him. He was being honest, she could tell, or at least more honest than he'd been before. And if I work for you, I'd be part of this. You'd be translating documents, that's all. If something makes you uncomfortable, you can refuse. I won't force you to do anything that violates your conscience. But I'd be complicit. You'd be employed. There's a difference. Was there? Jessica didn't know anymore. Her moral compass felt like it was spinning. Everything she'd been taught said to run from this kind of offer, this kind of man. But everything maternal in her was screaming to take it, to grab this lifeline and pull Chloe to safety. Can I think about it? She asked. Of course. But Jessica? Gabriel's expression was serious. Think quickly. This neighborhood is going to get worse before it gets better. The conflict I mentioned isn't over. Another incident like tonight is almost guaranteed. And next time, you might not be lucky. He was right. She knew he was right. I'll give you my answer tomorrow, Jessica said. Gabriel nodded and handed her another business card, this one with an address written on the back in elegant handwriting. This is the apartment. If you want to see it before deciding, go any time after 9 a.m. The doorman's name is Marcus. He's expecting you. Then he was gone, leaving Jessica standing in her broken apartment with 2 business cards and an impossible decision. That night, she lay in bed with Chloe curled up beside her. Neither of them wanted to sleep alone after the shooting, and stared at the ceiling. Safety. That's what Gabriel was offering. Real, tangible safety. But at what cost? Any time, any reason, he'd said. And she'd called. And now the door was open to a world she didn't understand, with a man who was either a guardian angel or something much more dangerous. Jessica touched her daughter's hair, listening to her breathe in the darkness. Tomorrow, she'd go see the apartment. Tomorrow, she'd make her choice. But deep down, in the part of her that had run into a rainy park to save her daughter without hesitation, Jessica already knew what that choice would be. The morning sun felt like an accusation. Jessica stood in front of the address Gabriel had written down, staring up at the building with Chloe beside her, both of them carrying the weight of a decision that hadn't quite been made but felt inevitable. The building was nothing like their queen's apartment. Glass and steel rose 12 stories above a tree-lined street in the Upper East Side, with an actual doorman in an actual uniform standing behind actual glass doors. Jessica had seen places like this in movies, had walked past them on the rare occasion she ventured into Manhattan, but had never imagined herself actually entering one. "Mom," Chloe whispered, "are you sure about this?" Jessica wasn't sure about anything, but she squeezed her daughter's hand and walked through the doors anyway. The doorman looked up with a professional smile that faltered slightly when he took in their worn jackets and Jessica's cheap purse, but his voice remained polite. "Can I help you?" "I'm Jessica Turner. I'm here to see an apartment. Gabriel Marino sent me?" The transformation was instant. The doorman's expression shifted from polite tolerance to genuine respect, maybe even a hint of wariness. "Of course, Ms. Turner. Mr. Marino called this morning. Marcus Rivera." He offered his hand, which Jessica shook. "The apartment is 8C. I'll take you up." They rode the elevator in silence. Jessica watched the numbers climb, feeling like she was ascending into a different stratosphere. Marcus kept glancing at them in the mirrored walls, clearly curious but too professional to ask questions. The hallway on the 8th floor was carpeted in something thick and expensive. Actual artwork hung on the walls. Marcus unlocked apartment 8C and stepped aside. "Take all the time you need, Miss Turner. I'll be downstairs if you have any questions." But Jessica stepped inside and felt her breath catch. The apartment was beautiful, not just nice or decent, but genuinely beautiful. Hardwood floors gleamed in the morning light streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. The living room was spacious, with a modern kitchen visible through an archway. Down a short hallway, she could see 2 bedroom doors standing open. Chloe had already wandered to the windows, staring out at the view of tree-lined streets and neighboring buildings. "Mom, you can see Central Park from here. Just a little bit, but you can see it." Jessica walked through the space slowly, taking inventory. The kitchen had appliances that actually matched and looked less than a decade old. The bathroom had a tub, a real tub, not just a tiny shower stall. The bedrooms were both larger than Chloe's current room, with actual closets instead of the jury-rigged hanging space they'd been making do with. In the larger bedroom, she found an envelope on the dresser with her name written in the same elegant handwriting from the business card. Inside was a simple note. "Jessica, the apartment is yours if you want it. No pressure, no strings beyond the work arrangement we discussed. Whatever you decide, you and Chloe deserve to be safe. Call me when you're ready to talk." Gabriel Jessica sat on the edge of the bed, a real bed, already furnished, with a mattress that didn't sag in the middle, and felt something crack in her chest. She'd been holding herself together so tightly for so long, being strong because she had to be, because Chloe needed her to be. But sitting here in this beautiful apartment that represented everything she couldn't give her daughter on her own, the facade crumbled. She didn't cry. She was too tired for tears. But she let herself feel the full weight of how hard everything had been, and how much she wanted this chance. "Mom?" Chloe appeared in the doorway. "Are we going to take it?" Jessica looked at her daughter, 15 years old, too smart for her own good, already learning to be small and invisible and safe in a world that didn't protect girls like her. What kind of life could Chloe have here? In a neighborhood where she wouldn't have to calculate safety routes or memorize which corners to avoid? What kind of future opened up when you didn't have to spend all your energy just surviving? "What do you think?" Jessica asked. Chloe came and sat beside her on the bed. "I think that man scares me a little, but I also think he saved my life. And I think you've been working yourself to death trying to keep us afloat, and maybe it's okay to accept help when someone offers it." When had her daughter become so wise? Even if we don't fully understand what we're accepting? "We never fully understand anything," Chloe said. "You taught me that. You said life is about making the best choice you can with the information you have, and then dealing with whatever comes next." Jessica had said that, right after the divorce, when Chloe had been 12 and confused and asking why her father didn't want them anymore. It had sounded wise at the time. Now it felt like dangerous justification. But Chloe was right. They never had perfect information. And the information they did have was this. Their current apartment had a bullet hole in the wall, their neighborhood was becoming a war zone, and a mysterious man with dark eyes and expensive cars was offering them a way out. Jessica pulled out her phone and dialed the number she'd already memorized. Gabriel answered on the second ring. "Jessica, we'll take it," she said. "The apartment, the job, all of it. We'll take it." There was a pause, and Jessica could almost hear him smiling. "I'm glad. When can you start? How soon do you need us?" "The apartment is ready now. As for work, I can give you a few days to get settled. Shall we say Monday?" Today was Friday. 3 days to pack up their life in Queens and transplant it here to this strange new world. "Monday works." "Good. Marcus will give you keys. I'll have movers come to your current apartment tomorrow morning. Just tell them what you want brought over. Everything else we can take care of." He paused. "Jessica, you're making the right choice. I know it doesn't feel that way yet, but you are. I hope you're right. I usually am. Welcome to your new home." He hung up, and Jessica sat there with the phone in her hand, feeling like she'd just signed a contract she hadn't fully read. But Chloe was already exploring the second bedroom, calling out observations about the closet space and the view, and the sound of her daughter's excitement was enough to quiet the doubts. For now. The next 48 hours passed in a blur. True to his word, Gabriel sent movers, professional, efficient men who packed up their queen's apartment with military precision. Jessica spent most of Saturday signing the lease termination, forwarding her address with various agencies, and trying not to think too hard about how fast this was all happening. Mrs. Chen from 3B cried when Jessica told her they were leaving. "But where will you go? How can you afford—" She stopped, reading something in Jessica's expression. "You found help, didn't you? Someone's looking after you." Jessica didn't know how to answer that. "We'll be okay. Better than okay. Chloe will be safe." Mrs. Chen pulled her into a hug. "Then that's all that matters, honey. You take care of that girl, and you take care of yourself, too." Sunday morning, Jessica and Chloe moved into 8C with their belongings, which looked sparse and shabby in the new space. Their old couch seemed to shrink against the wall. Their cheap dishes looked like children's toys in the modern kitchen, but it was theirs, transplanted into safety, and that was what mattered. Chloe adapted with the resilience of youth. By Sunday evening, she'd already picked out her bedroom furniture arrangement and was researching the nearest subway stop to her school. Jessica tried to match her daughter's enthusiasm, but kept finding herself at the windows, staring out at the foreign landscape of wealth and security, wondering what she'd really agreed to. Monday morning arrived too quickly. Jessica dressed in her best work clothes, a blazer and slacks that were 3 years old but still presentable, and took the subway to the address Gabriel had texted her. Merino Imports had offices in Midtown, in a building that was slightly less intimidating than the apartment but still well outside Jessica's usual sphere. The receptionist was expecting her. "Miss Turner, Mr. Marino is waiting. Conference room C." Gabriel was standing by the windows when Jessica entered, phone to his ear, speaking rapid Italian. He glanced up, held up one finger to indicate he'd just be a moment, then finished his conversation. When he hung up and turned to face her fully, Jessica was struck again by the same impression she'd had in the park. This was a man used to being in control, used to being obeyed. "Jessica, thank you for coming." He gestured to the conference table. "Please, sit. Coffee?" "No, thank you. I'm fine." They sat across from each other, and Gabriel slid a folder across the table. "Your employment contract, standard terms, salary we discussed, benefits package. Look it over, ask any questions." Jessica opened the folder and tried not to react to the salary figure. It was more than double what she'd been cobbling together with freelance work. Health insurance, dental, even a 401k. "This is very generous," she managed. "It's competitive for your skill set. You're fluent in 5 languages and have professional translation experience. That's valuable." Gabriel leaned back in his chair. "The work itself will be straightforward most of the time. I'll provide documents, contracts, correspondence, business proposals, and you'll translate them. Occasionally, I may need you to join conference calls to provide real-time translation. Is that something you're comfortable with?" "Yes, I've done that before." "Good. You'll work primarily from home, though I may occasionally need you to come to the office. Your schedule is flexible as long as deadlines are met." He paused. "I understand you have a daughter. Her schedule takes priority. If she's sick, if she has a school event, whatever she needs comes first. I don't expect you to sacrifice your family for this job." Jessica studied him. Why? Most employers would see that as a liability. Most employers are short-sighted. A translator who's worried about her daughter can't focus on her work. A translator whose daughter is safe and cared for will give me her best effort. It's pragmatic, not charitable. There was logic to it, even if the logic was wrapped in kindness. Jessica signed the contract. "Excellent." Gabriel collected the paperwork. "I'll have your first assignment to you by this afternoon. Something simple to start. A wine distribution contract. Take your time. Get familiar with the terminology. And if I have questions, call me directly. Or Maria, she's my assistant. You'll meet her." He stood, signaling the meeting was over. "Jessica, I know this is all new and probably overwhelming, but you'll find your rhythm. And if at any point you're uncomfortable with anything I ask you to do, tell me. I meant what I said about not forcing you into anything." Jessica stood as well. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Why are you doing this? Really doing this, I mean? You saved Chloe in the park. Okay, you're a good person who helps people, but this, the apartment, the job, all of it, this is more than just being helpful. So why? Gabriel was quiet for a long moment, and Jessica thought he might deflect again, give her another pragmatic non-answer. But then he said, "When I was young, my mother raised me alone for several years. My father was away. She worked 3 jobs to keep us housed and fed in a neighborhood that wasn't much better than yours. I watched her sacrifice everything, wear herself down to nothing because she didn't have options." He met Jessica's eyes. "When I see a woman doing the same thing, trying to protect her daughter with no resources and no support, I remember what that looks like. And if I can give her options, I do. That's all." It was the most personal thing he'd shared, and Jessica felt something shift between them. Not quite trust yet, but the foundation of it, understanding. "Thank you," she said quietly. Gabriel nodded. "Go home to your daughter. Start your new job. Let yourself breathe for the first time in a while." But Jessica left the office feeling lighter than she had in years, though she couldn't quite say why. The first week passed smoothly. The translation work was exactly what Gabriel had described: straightforward, professional, nothing that raised alarm bells. Jessica fell into a routine: mornings at her new desk by the window, working through contracts and correspondence; afternoons making sure Chloe settled into her new commute to school. Evenings they explored their new neighborhood together, finding the good grocery stores and the quiet cafe where Chloe liked to do homework. Chloe bloomed in the new environment. The constant edge of wariness she'd carried in Queens softened. She smiled more, laughed more, started talking about colleges again, something she'd stopped doing when money had gotten too tight to even imagine that future. Gabriel checked in periodically, a text asking if the work was manageable, a call to clarify a translation question, professional, appropriate. Exactly what an employer should be. But there were small things that went beyond professional. A package delivered to the apartment containing a new winter coat for Chloe, expensive and warm, with a note saying he'd noticed her old one was too thin. A bonus added to Jessica's first paycheck with a message about relocation expenses. Little gestures that said he was paying attention, that he cared. Jessica tried not to read too much into it, tried to keep things professional and bounded. But it was difficult when someone kept demonstrating that they saw you, understood you, wanted to make your life better. 2 weeks into the new arrangement, Gabriel invited her to lunch. They met at an Italian restaurant in Little Italy, the kind of place with checked tablecloths and waiters who knew Gabriel by name. He ordered for both of them in fluent Italian, then turned his attention to Jessica. "How are you finding the work?" "Good. It's actually interesting. I've learned more about wine distribution and textile manufacturing than I ever expected to." Gabriel smiled. "The glamorous life of international imports. Are you settling into the apartment well?" "Very well. Chloe loves it. She keeps finding new things to appreciate. The water pressure in the shower, the fact that the heat actually works, the way she can't hear the neighbors screaming at each other through the walls." Something dark flickered across Gabriel's face. She heard that often? In the old place? Every few nights? The couple in 3D had problems. Alcohol, mostly. Jessica took a sip of water. "It's quiet where we are now, almost eerily quiet. You'll get used to it. Quiet is a luxury in this city." The food arrived. Pasta that melted on the tongue, bread that was still warm from the oven. They ate in comfortable silence for a few minutes before Gabriel spoke again. "I want to be honest with you about something." Jessica's stomach tightened. Here it came. The real price. The thing she'd been waiting for. "Okay." "The neighborhood you lived in, the gang conflict that put the bullet through your window, that situation is escalating. There was another shooting last night. 3 people were hit. One was a teenager walking home from work." Jessica felt her blood go cold. Are they okay?" "He'll survive, but Jessica, if you'd still been there, if Chloe had been walking home at the wrong time..." Gabriel didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I want you to understand that this wasn't charity. Moving you and Chloe wasn't about making myself feel noble. It was about keeping you alive. That neighborhood is going to get worse before it gets better, and I couldn't..." He stopped, seemed to recalibrate. "I didn't want to see you become a statistic." Jessica set down her fork, her appetite suddenly gone. You keep tabs on the neighborhood, even after we left? I keep tabs on situations that concern me. And we concern you. It wasn't a question, but Gabriel answered anyway. Yes, you do. The weight of that admission hung between them. Jessica wanted to ask why, wanted to understand what she and Chloe represented to this powerful, mysterious man, but she was afraid of the answer, afraid it would complicate things further. I should probably say thank you again, she finally said, though I'm running out of ways to express gratitude for literally saving our lives. You don't owe me gratitude. You owe me good work, which you're already providing. Gabriel leaned forward slightly. Jessica, I need you to understand something. This arrangement we have, it's not about you being indebted to me. It's a genuine employment relationship. You provide valuable services, I provide compensation and security. That's the transaction. And if I decided tomorrow that I wanted to quit, find another job, move somewhere else, then you'd give 2 weeks' notice like any professional, and I'd wish you well. He met her eyes steadily. You're not trapped. You're not obligated beyond the work contract you signed. If you ever feel differently, we have a problem that needs to be addressed immediately. Jessica believed him. She didn't fully understand why, but she did. Gabriel Marino might be dangerous, might operate in worlds she couldn't comprehend, might have secrets upon secrets, but she didn't think he was lying about this. Okay, she said. I believe you. They finished lunch talking about safer topics. Chloe's adjustment to her longer commute, Jessica's plans to maybe take an online course to sharpen her Mandarin, Gabriel's opinion on the best bakery in the neighborhood. Normal conversation, almost like friends. When they parted on the sidewalk outside the restaurant, Gabriel touched her arm lightly. If you or Chloe need anything, call, not just work things. Anything. You can't keep solving all my problems, Jessica said, trying for lightness. Watch me. He walked away before she could respond, disappearing into the midday crowd with the ease of someone who knew exactly where he belonged. Jessica stood there for a moment, watching him go, feeling the warmth where his hand had briefly touched her arm. This was becoming complicated. She could feel it happening, the blurring of lines between professional and personal, between employer and something else entirely. But standing there on the sun-warmed sidewalk, stomach full of good food and mind full of a man who kept saving her without asking for anything in return, Jessica found she didn't entirely mind the complication. The call came 3 weeks later, shattering the fragile peace they'd built. Jessica was working on a contract translation, Chloe was at school, and the afternoon was peaceful until her phone rang with a number she didn't recognize. Ms. Turner, this is Principal Waverly from Madison Prep. There's been an incident involving Chloe. She's fine, she added quickly, hearing Jessica's sharp intake of breath. But we need you to come pick her up. Jessica was out the door before the call ended. At the school, she found Chloe in the principal's office, looking shaken but unharmed. The principal explained that there had been a confrontation in the cafeteria. Some girls from an affluent family had been making comments about Chloe's clothes, her background, the fact that she clearly didn't belong in their world. Chloe had kept quiet until one of them said something cruel about Jessica working as a translator because she'd failed at everything else. Then Chloe had thrown her lunch tray. I understand she was provoked, Principal Waverly said, but physical response is never acceptable. Normally, this would result in suspension, but given this is her first incident and the other students were clearly bullying her, we're issuing a warning. However, I wanted you to be aware of the situation. Jessica thanked her, signed the necessary paperwork, and took Chloe home. In the apartment, she made tea and sat her daughter down at the kitchen table. Tell me what they said, all of it. Chloe's eyes filled with tears. They called you a failure. They said we were charity cases, that everyone knew we were only here because some man felt sorry for us. They said I didn't belong in their school, that I should go back to Queens, where people like us came from. The tears spilled over. I didn't care what they said about me. But Mom, you've worked so hard, you've done everything for me, and they acted like you were nothing. Jessica pulled her daughter into her arms, feeling rage burn through her chest. Those girls are cruel and ignorant. What we are or aren't is none of their business. You understand that, right? I know, but it still hurt. I know, baby. I know. They sat there for a while, holding each other. Eventually, Chloe pulled back and wiped her eyes. Mom, are we charity cases? Is that what we are to Mr. Marino? No, we're employees. I work for him, and he compensates me fairly. That's a business relationship, not charity. But the apartment is so nice, and he's been generous, yes. But I've also been translating 10 to 15 documents a week, joining conference calls at odd hours, and providing professional services that are worth what he's paying me. Don't let those girls make you question your value, and don't let them make you question mine. Chloe nodded, but Jessica could see the doubt hadn't entirely cleared from her eyes. The incident had shaken something loose, exposed the fragility of their new life. They didn't quite belong here yet. Maybe they never would. That evening, after Chloe was asleep, Jessica called Gabriel. She hadn't planned to, had told herself this was something she should handle on her own. But the conversation with Chloe kept replaying in her mind, and before she could second-guess it, she was dialing. "Jessica, is everything all right?" Just the sound of his voice steadied her somehow. "Not really. Chloe had an incident at school today. Some girls were bullying her, making comments about our background. It got physical." "Is she hurt?" "No, she's fine. She threw a lunch tray at them." A pause, and then Gabriel laughed, a real, genuine laugh that Jessica had never heard from him before. "Good for her. What did the school say?" "Warning, no suspension. But Gabriel, she's struggling. We both are. We don't fit in this world. Those girls knew it, and they made sure Chloe knew they knew it. Those girls are privileged children who've never had to fight for anything in their lives. Chloe is stronger than all of them combined. She'll be fine." Will she? Or will this be the pattern, her constantly being reminded that she doesn't belong, that we're outsiders playing dress-up in someone else's neighborhood? Gabriel was quiet for a long moment. "Where are you right now?" "Home. Why?" "I'm coming over. We need to talk about this properly." "Gabriel, it's late. You don't have to—" "I'm already in the car. 20 minutes. He hung up, leaving Jessica staring at her phone and wondering what she'd just set in motion. 23 minutes later, there was a knock at the door. Gabriel stood in the hallway in a dark suit, looking like he'd come straight from some important meeting. His eyes scanned her face, reading her stress and exhaustion. "May I come in?" Jessica stepped aside. Gabriel entered the apartment, his presence somehow making the space feel both smaller and safer simultaneously. He glanced toward the bedrooms. "Chloe's asleep?" "Yes." She was exhausted. "Good." He turned to face Jessica fully. "Now, tell me exactly what those girls said to her. Every word you know." Jessica recounted the incident, watching Gabriel's expression grow progressively darker. When she finished, he was silent for a long moment, his jaw tight. "Give me their names." "What? No. Gabriel, this is a school issue, not Jessica. Give me their names. I'm not going to hurt them. But their parents need to understand that bullying has consequences, and I'm in a position to make them understand that." "By doing what exactly?" Gabriel's smile was cold. "By having conversations about business relationships, charity donations, social standing, the language these people understand. Trust me, after I make a few calls, those girls won't look at Chloe the wrong way again." It was tempting. So tempting to let this powerful man wield his influence on her daughter's behalf. But Jessica shook her head. "No, this is something Chloe has to navigate herself. If you swoop in and fix it, she'll never learn how to stand up for herself in this world." Gabriel studied her for a long moment. "You're probably right, but I don't have to like it." "Neither do I. But she needs to build her own strength, not borrow mine or yours." Jessica sank onto the couch, suddenly exhausted. "Those girls asked a valid question, though. Are we charity cases? Is that what we are to you?" Gabriel sat beside her, maintaining a respectful distance, but close enough that she could feel the warmth of him. "You're asking if I see you as a project, someone to fix and feel good about helping." "I guess I am." "Then the answer is no. That's not what you are to me." "Then what are we?" The question hung in the air between them, weighted with all the unspoken tension that had been building since that rainy night in the park. Gabriel turned to look at her, and Jessica saw something in his eyes she hadn't seen before. Something raw and honest. "You're someone who interests me," he said carefully. "Someone I respect. Someone whose company I enjoy and whose well-being matters to me beyond any professional obligation." Jessica's heart was beating too fast. "Gabriel, I'm not asking for anything," he interrupted gently. "I'm just being honest. You asked what you are to me, and that's the truth. If it makes you uncomfortable, I'll keep my distance. We can maintain a strictly professional relationship, but you deserve to know where I stand." Jessica didn't know what to say. She'd felt the attraction between them, had tried to ignore it, had told herself it was just gratitude and stress and the aftermath of trauma. But sitting here with him in her apartment, with his dark eyes steady on hers and his honesty laid bare, she couldn't pretend anymore. "It doesn't make me uncomfortable," she whispered. "That's what scares me." Gabriel reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and took her hand. His palm was warm, his grip gentle but certain. "Then don't be scared. We don't have to rush anything. We don't have to define anything. We can just be and see what happens." It was the easiest and hardest thing in the world to nod, to let her fingers curl around his, to acknowledge what was building between them without trying to control or predict it. They sat there in the quiet apartment, hands linked, not speaking because words felt insufficient. And for the first time since that night in the rain, Jessica let herself imagine a future that wasn't just survival, wasn't just getting through each day. A future that might include this man and all the complications he brought with him. Outside, the city hummed its endless song. Inside, something new and fragile and terrifying took root. Gabriel stayed another hour, talking about everything and nothing. When he finally left, he kissed her hand at the door, a gesture that was both old-fashioned and intimate, and promised to call her tomorrow. Jessica locked the door behind him and leaned against it, her hand still tingling where his lips had touched it. She was in uncharted territory now. No map, no guide, just the terrifying freedom of possibility. And despite everything that scared her about Gabriel Marino and the world he inhabited, Jessica found herself looking forward to finding out where this path might lead. The days that followed felt different, charged with an energy that made even ordinary moments feel significant. Gabriel called every evening, ostensibly to check on work assignments, but always staying on the line longer than necessary, asking about Chloe's day, about whether Jessica had tried the bakery on the corner he'd mentioned. Their conversations became a ritual Jessica found herself anticipating, sitting by the window with tea as the city lights blinked on below, Gabriel's voice in her ear making her feel less alone than she'd felt in years. He came to the apartment again on Friday, bringing dinner from the Italian restaurant where they'd had lunch weeks before. Chloe was spending the night at her friend Maya's house, a sleepover that had been planned for days but now felt impossibly convenient. Jessica tried not to read too much into the timing. "I wasn't sure what you liked," Gabriel said as he unpacked containers onto the kitchen counter. "So I brought options: carbonara, bolognese, margherita pizza, caprese salad. This is enough food for 6 people. Then we'll have leftovers." He smiled at her, and Jessica felt something warm unfold in her chest. He'd removed his jacket and rolled up his shirt sleeves, looking more relaxed than she'd ever seen him, more human, less like the mysterious figure who'd emerged from the rain, and more like a man who simply wanted to share a meal. They ate at the small dining table, candles flickering between them, because Jessica had impulsively lit them and now felt too self-conscious to blow them out. Gabriel told her about growing up in Little Italy, about his mother's insistence that he learn proper Italian alongside the New York dialect, about summers spent in Sicily with relatives who ran olive groves and vineyards. "That's how I ended up in the import business," he explained. "Family connections, generational relationships. My grandfather started it, my father expanded it, and I inherited both the company and the complications." "What kind of complications?" Gabriel swirled wine in his glass, considering. "The kind that come from operating in spaces between what's legal and what's acceptable. My family has always been good at navigating gray areas. We're not criminals. We don't hurt people. We don't traffic in anything harmful. But we facilitate transactions for people who value discretion, and discretion often means existing outside traditional channels." "You mean you help rich people move money?" "Among other things, yes." He met her eyes steadily. "Does that bother you?" Jessica thought about it honestly. A month ago, it would have. A month ago, she would have seen it as immoral, probably illegal, definitely dangerous. But that was before she'd spent weeks translating legitimate business documents, before she'd seen how Gabriel operated with integrity even in ethically ambiguous spaces, before she'd watched him demonstrate again and again that his word meant something. "I think," she said slowly, that morality is more complicated than I used to believe. I think the world isn't as black and white as I was raised to think it was. That's a dangerous realization. Is it? It means you're starting to see things the way they actually are, instead of the way you were told they should be. Once you see that, you can't unsee it. Gabriel leaned forward slightly. It changes you. Maybe I need changing. The words hung between them, heavy with implication. Gabriel's dark eyes searched her face, reading something there that made his expression shift. Jessica, he said quietly, I need you to understand what you're getting into, not just with the work, but with me. I operate in a world where power matters more than rules, where loyalty is currency, and where the wrong move can have serious consequences. I've protected you and Chloe from that world so far, kept you separate from the darker aspects. But if this, he gestured between them, becomes something more, that separation gets harder to maintain. Are you trying to scare me away? I'm trying to be honest with you. You deserve to know what you're choosing. Jessica stood and walked to the window, looking out at the glittering city. Behind her, she heard Gabriel rise as well, heard his footsteps approaching but stopping a respectful distance away. 3 months ago, she said, not turning around, I was terrified every single day. Terrified I couldn't pay rent, terrified something would happen to Chloe, terrified I was failing as a mother because I couldn't give her the life she deserved. I lived in a constant state of fear disguised as coping. She turned to face him. Since I met you, I've felt a lot of things, confusion, uncertainty, attraction, but not that kind of fear. For the first time in years, I feel like I can breathe. So yes, your world is complicated and probably dangerous, but my world was dangerous too, just in different ways. At least with you, I'm not facing it alone. Gabriel closed the distance between them in 2 strides. His hands came up to frame her face, gentle but certain, and Jessica's breath caught. I won't let anything hurt you, he said, his voice rough with emotion. You or Chloe. Whatever happens, whatever complications arise, I will keep you safe. That's a promise. Gabriel, he kissed her. It was nothing like Jessica had imagined in the moments she'd let herself imagine it. There was no hesitation, no careful testing of boundaries. Gabriel kissed her like a man who'd been holding himself back for weeks and had finally been given permission to stop. His mouth was warm and demanding, his hands sliding from her face into her hair, and Jessica felt everything in her ignite. She kissed him back with equal hunger, her hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer. All the tension that had been building between them, the loaded conversations, the lingering glances, the carefully maintained professional distance, shattered. This was real and raw and utterly consuming. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Gabriel pressed his forehead to hers. I've wanted to do that since the day you called me about the shooting, he admitted. You hide it well. I've had practice hiding what I want. But Jessica, I don't want to hide this. Not from you. Then don't. They moved to the couch, unable to keep space between them now that the barrier had broken. Gabriel pulled Jessica against his side, her head on his shoulder, his arm around her waist. They talked for hours, about everything and nothing. Gabriel told her about the parts of his business he was proud of, the legitimate side that employed hundreds of people, the relationships he'd built with artisans in Italy, the way he'd modernized his family's company while respecting its traditions. Jessica told him about her dreams of getting a graduate degree someday, about the translation she found most interesting, about Chloe's ambitions to study international relations. She wants to work for the UN, Jessica said. She wants to make a difference in the world. She will. She's got her mother's strength and determination. And her mother's tendency to get in over her head, apparently. Gabriel laughed, the sound rumbling through his chest into Jessica's ear. Is that what you think you're doing? Getting in over your head with me? Aren't I? Probably. But I'm in over my head with you too, so we're even. They fell asleep on the couch, tangled together, the candles burning down to nothing, and the city lights painting patterns on the walls. It was the most peaceful Jessica had felt in years. The ringing phone woke her at 3 a.m. Gabriel was instantly alert, reaching for his cell with the kind of reflex that came from always being on call. He glanced at the screen, his expression darkening. I need to take this. He stood and walked to the window, speaking in low, rapid Italian. Jessica couldn't follow the words, but she could read his body language, tension, anger, controlled fury. When he hung up and turned back to her, his face was carefully neutral. Too neutral. "What's wrong?" Jessica asked. "Business issue. Nothing that concerns you." "Gabriel," he sighed, running a hand through his hair. "One of my clients had a shipment intercepted. It's going to require some delicate handling." "Intercepted by who? Police? Customs?" "Customs. Like I said, delicate. I need to go deal with it." He moved back to the couch, cupping her face gently. "I'm sorry. I don't want to leave, but this can't wait." "It's fine. Go. Do what you need to do." Gabriel kissed her, soft and lingering, like he was trying to memorize the feel of her. "I'll call you later. And Jessica, lock the door behind me. Don't open it for anyone until Chloe gets home in the morning." The sudden intensity in his voice sent a chill down her spine. "Why? Is something wrong? Is this about more than just a customs problem?" "Just a precaution, please, for me." Jessica nodded, and Gabriel left, his earlier relaxation replaced by the coiled energy of a man going into battle. She locked the door as instructed and stood there in the silent apartment, feeling the evening's warmth fade into unease. The next morning, Chloe came home full of stories about her sleepover, oblivious to Jessica's distraction. Gabriel texted around noon saying the situation was handled, but he'd need to be unavailable for a few days while things settled. Jessica tried not to worry, tried to focus on her work and her daughter, but the memory of his tone when he told her to lock the door kept playing in her mind. 3 days passed with minimal contact. Brief texts, one rushed phone call where Gabriel sounded tired and stressed. Jessica told herself it was fine, that she'd known what she was getting into, that his business had demands she couldn't always understand. But when a black SUV parked outside her building on the 4th day and didn't move for 6 hours, she started to genuinely worry. She called Gabriel. It went to voicemail. She called again an hour later. Same result. The SUV was still there when Chloe got home from school. Jessica kept her daughter away from the windows, made dinner, helped with homework, all while fighting the growing certainty that something was very wrong. At 8 p.m., Gabriel finally called back. "I saw you tried to reach me. Is everything all right?" "There's a car outside my building, black SUV, tinted windows. It's been there all day." A pause. "What's the license plate?" Jessica read it off. She heard Gabriel typing, then a soft curse in Italian. "That's one of mine," he said. "Yours? Why would your car be outside my building?" "Because I asked my security team to keep an eye on the building while I'm handling this situation." "Jessica, I told you it was just a customs issue, but that wasn't entirely true. The shipment that was intercepted belonged to someone who doesn't take losses well. He's making noise about recouping his money, and some of that noise has included threats against people in my organization." Jessica's blood went cold. "Are we in danger?" "No. That's why the car is there, to make sure you stay safe while I resolve this. But I should have told you. I'm sorry. I was trying to keep you separated from this side of things. Gabriel, if there are people threatening you, threatening people around you, I need to know. Chloe needs to know. We can't protect ourselves from dangers we don't even know exist." "You're right. You're absolutely right." He exhaled roughly. "Can I come over? This is a conversation we need to have in person." "When?" "I'm 15 minutes away." 20 minutes later, Gabriel was at her door looking like he'd been through hell. His suit was rumpled, his jaw shadowed with stubble, exhaustion evident in every line of his face. But his eyes were sharp and alert, scanning the apartment before settling on Jessica. "Where's Chloe?" "Her room, headphones on, doing homework. She doesn't know about the car or any of this." "Good. Let's keep it that way for now." Gabriel moved to the couch, sat heavily. "I need to explain some things. Things I should have told you before last week." Jessica sat beside him, her stomach tight with apprehension. "Okay, I'm listening." Gabriel was quiet for a moment, gathering his thoughts. "The import business is legitimate, that's not a lie, but it's also a front, or at least partial cover, for other operations. Money laundering, mostly. Facilitating transactions for people who can't use traditional banking systems. Some of my clients are simply wealthy individuals avoiding taxes. Others are less savory. Organized crime families, international syndicates, people who operate entirely outside the law. You work with the Mafia. I work with multiple organizations that could be classified as such, yes, I don't work for them. That's an important distinction. I'm an independent contractor, neutral territory. I provide services, they pay me, we don't interfere in each other's business. It's worked well for years. Until now. Until now, Gabriel agreed grimly. The client whose shipment was seized is claiming I should have known the route was compromised, that I should have provided better intelligence. He's demanding I reimburse him for the loss, $500,000 worth of product. Jessica's eyes widened. What kind of product? Pharmaceuticals, not illegal themselves, but he was moving them without proper permits, avoiding taxes and regulations. Now he's lost both the product and the money he'd already paid for it, and he wants someone to blame. So he's threatening you. He's threatening people around me. It's a standard pressure tactic. Make it clear that my refusal to pay doesn't just affect me. He's making noise about my employees, my business partners, even my family connections. Gabriel's jaw tightened. He mentioned you, not by name, but referenced the fact that I'd recently taken in a woman and her daughter, that it would be unfortunate if anything happened to them. Jessica felt ice flood her veins. He knows about us? How? Because I haven't exactly been subtle about ensuring your safety, moving you into a building I own, putting you on my payroll, assigning security to watch your building. These are all visible actions. Anyone paying attention could connect the dots. Gabriel reached for her hand. Jessica, I'm going to handle this. He's not going to touch you or Chloe, but I need you to follow some precautions until it's resolved. What kind of precautions? Don't go anywhere alone. If you need to go out, call me and I'll send someone with you. Keep Chloe on the same protocol. School and home only. No detours, no staying late for activities. If anyone approaches you claiming to know me, don't engage. Call me immediately. For how long? A week, maybe less. I'm meeting with him tomorrow to negotiate. Once we reach an agreement, the threat disappears. Jessica pulled her hand away, standing and pacing to the window. The SUV was still there, a dark sentinel in the streetlight. This is insane. This is actually insane. I don't know what I thought. That your business was edgy, but not dangerous. That you operated in gray areas, but nothing that would actually put us at risk. I know, and I'm sorry. I should have been clear about the potential dangers. Potential? Gabriel, there's a man threatening your life and mine because a shipment got seized. That's not potential danger, that's actual danger. Present tense. And I'm handling it. This is what I do, Jessica. I navigate conflicts. I broker deals. I resolve situations before they escalate. I've been doing this for 15 years without anyone getting hurt because I'm good at it. Jessica turned to face him. But what if you're not good enough this time? What if he doesn't accept your negotiation? What happens then? Gabriel stood as well, crossing to her. Then I use other leverage. I make it clear that harming you or Chloe would be the worst mistake he could make, that there are consequences that would make losing $500,000 seem trivial. You're talking about violence. I'm talking about making him understand the reality of the situation. I'm not without my own connections, my own power base. Most of these conflicts resolve through reputation and implication, not actual violence. Most, not all. Not all, Gabriel admitted. But Jessica, I won't let it come to that. I swear to you, I will resolve this peacefully. Jessica wanted to believe him, but standing there looking at this man who'd become so important to her so quickly, she was seeing clearly for the first time the full reality of what being with him meant. It meant living with this kind of threat. It meant accepting that her safety and Chloe's safety could become bargaining chips in conflicts she didn't understand. I need to think, she said quietly, about all of this. About whether I can actually live in this world. Pain flickered across Gabriel's face, but he nodded. That's fair. Take whatever time you need. The security stays regardless. Whether we're together or not, I'm not leaving you unprotected while this plays out. Gabriel, no arguments on that point, please. He moved toward the door, then paused. I meant what I said last week. I won't let anything hurt you. I know you're questioning whether you can trust that right now, but it's still true. After he left, Jessica stood in the silent apartment, feeling like the ground had shifted beneath her feet. Everything was complicated now, the illusion of safety stripped away to reveal the dangerous reality underneath. She checked on Chloe, who was still absorbed in homework, blissfully unaware that their lives had just been threatened by a criminal upset about pharmaceuticals. How could Jessica explain this to her daughter? How could she justify the choice to stay with Gabriel when staying meant exposing Chloe to this world? But leaving meant losing the security, the safety, the first genuine connection she'd felt in years. It meant going back to struggling and scrambling and being afraid in different ways. Jessica lay in bed that night staring at the ceiling, Gabriel's kiss still a memory on her lips, the SUV still a presence outside her window, and no clear path forward visible in either direction. The next 3 days were tense. Gabriel texted updates. He'd made contact with the client, negotiations were underway, things were progressing. Jessica went through the motions of normal life, while hyper-aware of the security detail that followed her to the grocery store, that waited outside Chloe's school, that represented both protection and threat. Chloe noticed, of course, noticed the watchful men, noticed her mother's tension, noticed that Gabriel hadn't been around. "Mom, what's going on?" she asked on the third night. "Why are those men always around? Did something happen?" Jessica had been dreading this conversation. She sat Chloe down and explained as gently as she could. Gabriel's business involved complicated people. There was a current dispute. As a precaution, they had protection until it was resolved. Chloe processed this with the sharp intelligence she'd inherited from her mother. "Is this because you're dating him? Are we in danger because of your relationship?" The accusation in her daughter's voice cut deep. "It's complicated. Gabriel's trying to keep us safe. Safe from problems that exist because we know him in the first place." Chloe stood up, her expression hurt and angry. "You always told me to make smart choices, to think about consequences. Did you think about the consequences of getting involved with someone like him?" "Chloe, I liked our life here. I liked feeling safe. But now there are bodyguards following us, and you look scared all the time, and I don't know what to think anymore." Tears welled in Chloe's eyes. "I just want things to be normal again." She fled to her room before Jessica could respond. Jessica sat there feeling like the worst mother in the world, wondering if Chloe was right. Had she been selfish? Had she put her attraction to Gabriel above her daughter's well-being? Her phone rang. Gabriel. "It's done," he said without preamble. "We reached an agreement. The threat is over." Relief flooded through her. "What kind of agreement?" "The kind where I agreed to absorb part of the loss in exchange for him acknowledging that threatening you was a line he shouldn't have crossed. We're square. The security detail will pull back tomorrow." "Just like that? It's over?" "Just like that. I told you I'd handle it." He paused. "How are you? How's Chloe?" "Chloe is upset. She knows something's been wrong, and she blames our relationship for it." "She's not entirely wrong. Gabriel, Jessica, she's not wrong. Dating me does come with complications and potential dangers. I can minimize them, but I can't eliminate them entirely. If that's not something you can accept, if it's not something you want Chloe exposed to, I understand." His voice was carefully neutral, but Jessica could hear the emotion underneath. "I'll miss you, but I'd rather lose you than put you in danger." It was the right thing to say, the noble thing, and it made Jessica realize with sudden clarity that she didn't want to lose him either. "Come over tomorrow night," she said. "We need to talk, all three of us." The next evening, Gabriel arrived at exactly 7 p.m. looking nervous for the first time since Jessica had met him. She'd prepared Chloe, explained that they needed to have an honest conversation about what their relationship with Gabriel meant and what it would require. They sat in the living room, Jessica and Chloe on the couch, Gabriel in the chair across from them. For a long moment, no one spoke. Finally, Chloe broke the silence. "My mom says you fixed the problem, that we're safe now." "You are. I made sure of it." "But it could happen again, right? Other problems, other threats." Gabriel didn't insult her intelligence by lying. "It's possible. I can't guarantee it won't. What I can guarantee is that I'll always prioritize protecting you and your mother, that I'll handle situations before they become direct threats, that I have resources and connections that make most people think twice about crossing me." "Most people. Not all." "Not all," Gabriel agreed. He leaned forward, his expression serious. "Chloe, I need you to understand something. I didn't plan this. Didn't plan to care about your mother. Didn't plan to want to be part of your lives. But it happened, and now I can't imagine not having you both in my world. However, if you tell me you can't accept that world, if you tell me the cost is too high, I'll walk away. Your well-being matters more than what I want. Chloe studied him for a long moment. Do you love my mom? The blunt question made both Gabriel and Jessica freeze. Gabriel's eyes moved to Jessica, holding her gaze as he answered. Yes, I do. Jessica's breath caught. They hadn't said it yet, hadn't put words to what was building between them. Hearing it now, in front of her daughter, in the middle of this crisis, felt both too soon and exactly right. And you, Mom? Chloe turned to Jessica. Do you love him? Jessica had been asking herself that question for days. Now, looking at Gabriel's face, seeing the vulnerability there beneath his usual control, she knew the answer. Yes, I do. Chloe nodded slowly, taking this in. Okay, then I guess we deal with the complicated stuff. Because we've dealt with complicated before. We can do it again. She looked between them. But I need both of you to promise me something. Promise that you'll always be honest with me. That you won't hide dangers or pretend things are fine when they're not. I'm not a kid anymore. I can handle the truth. I promise, Jessica said. Gabriel nodded. You have my word. No more secrets, no more protecting you by keeping you in the dark. If there's a threat, you'll know about it. Good. Chloe stood up. I'm going to my room now because this is getting weird and I have homework. But for the record, I like you, Mr. Marino. You make my mom happy. Just don't make me regret saying that. She left, and Jessica and Gabriel sat in the sudden silence, both processing what had just happened. She's remarkable, Gabriel finally said. She gets that from her father, Jessica replied, then laughed at Gabriel's expression. Kidding. She gets it from surviving everything we've survived. She's had to grow up fast. Gabriel moved to the couch beside her, taking her hand. I meant it, what I said. I love you, Jessica. I know it's fast, I know it's complicated, but it's true. I love you too, and you're right. It's fast and complicated and probably crazy, but it's also real. And I'm tired of running from real things because they're difficult. He kissed her then, soft and sweet, a promise and a beginning. When they broke apart, Gabriel rested his forehead against hers. We're going to make this work. Whatever complications come up, whatever challenges we face, we'll handle them together. Together, Jessica agreed. Outside, the security detail had already pulled back, the street returning to its normal nighttime quiet. Inside, a new kind of future was taking shape, one built on honesty and acceptance, on love that acknowledged its own complications without letting them become obstacles. It wasn't the safe, simple life Jessica had once imagined, but sitting there with Gabriel's arm around her and Chloe's music drifting from the bedroom, Jessica realized she didn't want safe and simple anymore. She wanted real. And real, for all its dangers and difficulties, felt like finally coming home. The weeks that followed felt like learning to breathe in a new atmosphere. Gabriel became a regular presence in their lives, joining them for dinners several times a week, taking Chloe to her debate club competitions, consulting with Jessica on translations that required cultural nuance beyond pure linguistic accuracy. He fit into their world with surprising ease, and they into his, the boundaries between professional and personal blurring until they ceased to exist entirely. Jessica found herself translating increasingly complex documents, her skills sharpening as Gabriel entrusted her with more sensitive materials. She learned the coded language of international transactions, the subtle implications in contract clauses, the way certain phrases meant entirely different things depending on context. It was fascinating work, intellectually demanding in ways her previous freelance jobs had never been. But more than the work, it was the quiet moments that cemented their new reality. Gabriel teaching Chloe basic Italian phrases while Jessica made dinner. Sunday mornings when he'd arrive with fresh pastries and the Times, spreading the paper across their dining table like he belonged there. The way he'd call in the middle of the day just to hear her voice, no agenda beyond connection. It felt like building something real, something that might last. Then Ryan showed up. It was a Thursday evening, just past 6. Jessica was reviewing a shipping manifest when the buzzer rang. Marcus's voice came through the intercom, uncertain and apologetic. Miss Turner, there's a man here claiming to be Chloe's father, Ryan Turner. He's insisting I let him up. Jessica's blood turned to ice. Ryan, here. After 3 years of silence, 3 years of no child support and no contact, he'd found them. "Don't let him up," she said immediately. "I'll come down."
But, Mom? Chloe appeared from her room, having heard the exchange. Is that really Dad? Stay here, lock the door. Don't let anyone in except me or Gabriel. But, Chloe, please, just trust me. Jessica rode the elevator down with her heart hammering against her ribs. She'd known this might happen eventually, that Ryan might resurface. But she'd hoped, foolishly, perhaps, that he'd stay gone, that he'd remain a ghost from their past rather than materializing into their present.
Ryan was in the lobby, and he looked terrible. Thinner than she remembered, his face haggard and marked by years of hard living. His clothes were rumpled, his eyes bloodshot. He'd been drinking. She could smell it from across the room. "Jessica." His voice was rough, scraped raw by cigarettes and alcohol. "Long time." "What do you want, Ryan?" "That's cold. Not even a hello? Not even asking how I've been?" "I know how you've been, absent. You lost the right to pleasantries when you walked out on your daughter 3 years ago." Jessica kept her voice low but hard. "Again, what do you want?" Ryan's eyes swept the lobby, taking in the expensive finishes, the doorman, the obvious wealth. "Nice place, real nice. Marcus here tells me you've been living here for a couple months now. Quite an upgrade from Queens." "We moved. It's none of your business." "Our daughter is my business." "And when she's suddenly living in the kind of building I could never afford, when you're clearly doing a lot better than the last time I saw you, I think I have a right to wonder how that happened." The implication in his tone made Jessica's stomach turn. "I have a job, a good job. I work for an import company as a translator. That's how I afford this." "Right, a translator," Ryan laughed, bitter and ugly. "Must be some company." "What are you translating, Jessica? Love letters from some rich guy who set you up here?" "Get out." "I want to see Chloe." "Absolutely not." "She's my daughter. I have rights." Jessica stepped closer, lowering her voice to a dangerous whisper. "You have no rights. You abandoned her. No child support, no calls, no birthday cards for 3 years. You don't get to show up drunk demanding access because you suddenly remembered you have a daughter." "I've been struggling, Jess. You know that. I had problems. You had choices. You chose alcohol and whatever else you were into over your child. That's not struggling, Ryan. That's failing, and I'm not letting you anywhere near her." Ryan's expression hardened. "We'll see what a judge says about that. I've been sober 2 months now, going to meetings, getting my life together. A court might be real interested to hear how you're living in luxury while keeping my daughter from me." "Is that a threat?" "It's a reality check. You want to keep me away from Chloe? Fine, but it's going to cost you." He named a figure, $20,000, that made Jessica's vision blur with rage. "You're blackmailing me. You're actually trying to blackmail me for access to the daughter you abandoned. I'm asking for help getting back on my feet, help that will make me more stable, better able to be in Chloe's life. Think of it as retroactive child support." Ryan's smile was poison. "Or don't pay, and I'll file for partial custody, drag you through court, make everything ugly in public. Your choice." Jessica wanted to hit him, wanted to scream, wanted to have him thrown out and file a restraining order. But she could see the calculation in his eyes, the desperate cunning of an addict who'd found an angle. "Get out of my building. If you come back, I'll call the police." "You have 1 week to think about it, Jess." "1 week? Then I file papers." Ryan turned to leave, then paused. "Nice seeing you. Tell Chloe her dad says hi." He walked out into the evening, leaving Jessica shaking with fury and fear in equal measure. Upstairs, Chloe was waiting by the door, her face pale. "What did he want?" Jessica pulled her daughter into a hug, holding tight. "Money. He wants money. Are you going to give it to him?" "I don't know yet. But baby, you need to know. He mentioned trying to get custody." "He can't actually do that, not after abandoning you, but he could make things difficult. He could drag us into court." Chloe pulled back, her expression fierce. "I don't want to see him. I don't want him in my life. If a judge asks, I'll tell them that. It won't come to that, I promise." Jessica hoped she wasn't lying. She called Gabriel immediately after Chloe went to bed. He listened in silence as she recounted the confrontation, and with each word, Jessica could hear his anger building, controlled but unmistakable. How did he find you? Gabriel asked when she finished. I don't know. Maybe he hired someone to track us down. Maybe he just got lucky. Where's he staying? He didn't say. Gabriel, what are we going to do? I can't pay him $20,000, but I also can't risk him actually filing for custody. Even if he'd never win, the process would be traumatic for Chloe. She doesn't need that. She's not going to have it, and he's not getting $1 from you. Gabriel's voice had gone cold, the tone he used when conducting business. Give me 24 hours. I'll handle this. Handle it how? By making it very clear that pursuing this course of action would be catastrophically unwise for him. Trust me, Jessica, by this time tomorrow Ryan will be gone and he won't come back. Jessica wanted to ask more, wanted to know exactly what Gabriel planned to do. But part of her didn't want those details. She just wanted the problem solved, wanted Ryan gone from their lives permanently. Okay, she said quietly. I trust you. Get some rest. I'll call you tomorrow. But Jessica couldn't rest. She lay awake imagining worst-case scenarios, court battles, Chloe being forced to see a father who'd hurt her through absence. By 3 a.m., she'd given up on sleep and was sitting at the window watching the city when her phone rang. Gabriel's name on the screen. Did I wake you? He asked. I wasn't sleeping. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. I found him. Ryan's staying at a motel in the Bronx. I'm heading there now to have a conversation. Gabriel, it's 3 a.m, which means he'll be there, probably drunk, definitely vulnerable. The best time for the kind of conversation I intend to have. He paused. Do you want to be there? Jessica's first instinct was to say no, to stay removed from whatever Gabriel was about to do. But then she thought about Ryan's smug face, his threats, the way he'd weaponized Chloe's existence for his own gain. Yes, she heard herself say, I want to be there. I'll pick you up in 20 minutes. Jessica left a note for Chloe in case she woke up, then waited in the lobby. Gabriel arrived exactly on time, his expression grim. The drive to the Bronx was silent, tension filling the car like smoke. The motel was exactly the kind of place Jessica expected, cheap, rundown, the kind that rented rooms by the hour and didn't ask questions. Gabriel parked and turned to face her. What I'm about to do might frighten you. I won't hurt him. That's a line I don't cross without extreme provocation. But I will make him understand the consequences of his choices. If you want to wait in the car, I understand. I'm coming with you. They found Ryan's room number from the night clerk, a transaction that involved Gabriel sliding cash across the desk without saying a word. Room 23, ground floor. Gabriel knocked, sharp and authoritative. Shuffling from inside, then Ryan's voice, slurred and irritated. What? Open the door, Ryan. We need to talk. A pause. Who the hell are you? Someone with a vested interest in your future decisions. Open the door or I'll open it myself. Your choice. The door cracked open and Ryan peered out with bloodshot eyes. When he saw Jessica, recognition and calculation flickered across his face. Then he saw Gabriel, really saw him, took in the expensive clothes, the controlled power, the absolute certainty in his stance, and something like fear replaced the calculation. What is this? Ryan asked. Gabriel pushed the door open fully, forcing Ryan to back into the room. Jessica followed, her heart pounding. The room was a disaster. Empty bottles, fast food containers, clothes scattered everywhere. The air reeked of alcohol and despair. Sit down, Gabriel said. It wasn't a request. Ryan sat on the edge of the unmade bed. Gabriel remained standing, positioning himself between Ryan and the door. Jessica stood slightly behind Gabriel, watching. My name is Gabriel Marino. I'm Jessica's employer and her partner, which means Chloe's well-being is my concern. And you, Ryan, have become a problem that needs solving. I have rights. You have nothing, Gabriel cut him off, his voice like ice. You abandoned your daughter for 3 years. No contact, no support, no presence in her life whatsoever. Then you show up drunk, making threats and demanding money. That's not fatherhood. That's extortion. I'm allowed to see my own kid. You're allowed to file for custody through proper legal channels, yes. And if you do, here's what will happen. First, Jessica will file a counterpetition documenting your abandonment, your substance abuse history, and your current instability. I have contacts who can ensure that documentation is thorough and compelling. Second, you'll be required to take drug and alcohol tests. How confident are you that you'll pass those, Ryan? Ryan's face paled. I've been sober. 2 months, you claimed. Let's be generous and assume that's true, though I doubt it given the state of this room. 2 months of sobriety doesn't erase 3 years of abandonment. Third, you'll need to demonstrate financial stability and appropriate living conditions. This motel room doesn't qualify. Do you have a permanent address, a steady job, any evidence that you're capable of providing for a child? Ryan was silent. I thought not, Gabriel continued. So here's the reality. You could file for custody, and you would lose, badly and publicly. The process would cost you money you don't have for lawyers you can't afford. And at the end of it, you'd still have no access to Chloe, but you would have a legal record documenting exactly how unfit you are as a father. You can't. I can, and I will. But I'm offering you an alternative. Gabriel pulled an envelope from his jacket. And here are documents that legally terminate your parental rights. Sign them, and I'll give you $10,000. Cash. Enough to get yourself into a real recovery program, find stable housing, start over somewhere else. Ryan stared at the envelope. You want me to give up my daughter for 10 grand? I want you to acknowledge that you already gave her up 3 years ago. This just makes it official. And Ryan? Gabriel's voice dropped lower, more dangerous. This is the only offer you're getting. Take it, or spend the next 6 months being destroyed in court proceedings that will leave you with nothing. Your choice. You have 60 seconds to decide. Jessica watched Ryan's face, saw the internal struggle. Pride warred with pragmatism, fatherly instinct, if it had ever really existed, warred with the lure of cash and an easy out. She won't want to see me anyway, Ryan finally said, his voice hollow. Will she? No, Jessica answered, speaking for the first time. She won't. You broke her heart when you left, Ryan. She's moved on. We both have. This is just making official what's already true. Ryan reached for the envelope with shaking hands. Gabriel pulled out a pen and a small flashlight, pointing to the signature lines. Ryan signed without reading, mechanical and defeated. Gabriel counted out cash, actual bills, a thick stack, and placed them on the bed. The documents will be filed tomorrow. As of next week, you'll have no legal relationship to Chloe Turner. In exchange, you take this money and you disappear. You don't contact Jessica, you don't contact Chloe, you don't show up in their lives again. If you do, I'll make your life very difficult in ways you can't imagine. Do we understand each other? Ryan nodded, staring at the money. Say it. I need to hear you say you understand. I understand. I'll stay away. Good. Gabriel collected the signed documents, then turned to Jessica. Anything you want to say to him? Jessica looked at her ex-husband, this man she'd once loved, once built a life with, once believed would be her partner in raising their daughter. Now he was just a stranger who'd given up everything that mattered for cash and the promise of an easy escape. I hope you find whatever you're looking for, she said quietly, but you won't find it with us. Goodbye, Ryan. They left him sitting on that bed surrounded by empty bottles and money, and Jessica felt nothing but relief. In the car, she finally let herself process what had just happened. Gabriel had just paid her ex-husband to sign away his parental rights. It was calculated, probably manipulative, definitely unconventional. It was also the most protective thing anyone had ever done for her and Chloe. Thank you, she said softly. Gabriel glanced at her. You're not upset about how I handled that? I should be, probably. It was ruthless and mercenary, and you basically bought him off. But it worked, and he wasn't going to be a father to her anyway. All he was going to do was cause pain and demand money. You ended it cleanly. Jessica reached across the console to take his hand. You protected us. Again. Always? Gabriel said simply. That's what I do. That's what I'll always do. They drove back to Manhattan as dawn began to break over the city, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. By the time they reached Jessica's building, the streets were starting to fill with early commuters, the city waking up to another day. Gabriel walked her to the door. Get some sleep. I'll file these documents this morning, and by next week it will all be official. What if he changes his mind, decides he wants the money and his parental rights? He signed a legal contract. If he tries to contest it, he'll be in breach. And beyond that, Gabriel's smile was cold. He knows better than to cross me. He understood exactly what I was offering and what I was threatening. He'll take the money and disappear. Jessica believed him. She stood on her toes and kissed him, pouring gratitude and love and relief into it. "Stay," she whispered against his mouth. "Come upstairs. Stay with me." Gabriel hesitated. "Chloe, we'll understand. She knows about us. And she'll want to know Ryan is handled." Jessica took his hand. "Please, I don't want to be alone right now." They went up together, quiet in the early morning stillness. Chloe was still asleep, her door closed. Jessica led Gabriel to her room and they lay down together on top of the covers, still fully clothed, exhaustion finally catching up with them both. "I love you," Jessica murmured, her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. "I love you too," Gabriel replied, his arms tightening around her. "Both of you. My family now." Jessica fell asleep to that word, family, feeling safer than she'd felt in years. When she woke a few hours later, Gabriel was gone, but there was a note on the pillow. "Had to handle the filings. Documents are submitted. He's gone from your life, forever." Gee. Jessica held the note to her chest, feeling tears prick her eyes. Not sad tears, grateful ones. How had this become her life? How had a desperate night in the rain led to this man, this protection, this fierce and unconditional support? Chloe knocked softly on the door, then poked her head in. "Mom, are you okay? Your note said you'd be back early, but it's almost noon." Jessica sat up, beckoning her daughter in. "I'm okay. Better than okay. Sit down, baby. I need to tell you something." She explained what had happened, editing out some of the harsher details but being honest about the essentials. Ryan had shown up demanding money. Gabriel had handled it. Ryan had signed away his parental rights and agreed to stay out of their lives permanently. Chloe listened without interrupting, her face cycling through emotions: anger, relief, sadness, acceptance. "So he's really gone?" she finally asked. "Forever?" "Forever." "Good." Chloe's voice was firm. "I know I'm supposed to feel sad or conflicted, but I don't. I just feel relieved. Is that terrible?" Jessica pulled her daughter close. "No, baby, that's honest. You're allowed to feel however you feel. There's no right way to process this." "Gabriel really paid him off?" "Yes." "That's kind of badass, actually, in a scary mob boss kind of way." Chloe pulled back, a small smile on her face. "He really loves us, doesn't he? Like, really, actually loves us." "He does." "Good, because I love him too. Not like a dad. I don't think I'm ready for that, but like someone important, someone who matters." "I'll tell him that. He'll be happy to hear it." They spent the afternoon together, just the two of them, processing and healing and slowly letting go of the weight Ryan had represented in their lives. By evening, Jessica felt lighter than she had in years. The ghost of her past was finally, officially gone. Gabriel came by that night with Chinese takeout, and the official documentation showing Ryan's termination of parental rights had been filed and accepted. He presented it to Jessica like a gift, which in a way it was. "It's done," he said. "He can't come back. He can't make claims. You and Chloe are free of him." Over dinner, Chloe repeated what she'd told Jessica earlier, that she loved Gabriel, that he mattered, that she was grateful. Gabriel's eyes went suspiciously bright, and he had to clear his throat several times before responding. "You matter to me too, Chloe. More than I can say. And I want you to know, I'm not trying to replace your father or be something I'm not. I'm just here, for both of you. Whatever you need." "What we need," Chloe said matter-of-factly, "is for you to keep making my mom happy and keep us safe from random criminals and deadbeat dads. Think you can handle that?" Gabriel laughed. "I think I can manage that." After dinner, after Chloe retreated to her room, Gabriel and Jessica stood at the window looking out at the city lights. "What happens now?" Jessica asked. "Where do we go from here?" "Forward," Gabriel said simply. "We keep building this life, keep making it stronger. I have some ideas, actually, if you're interested." "What kind of ideas?" "The kind that involve you taking on more responsibility in the company. Maybe developing your own client relationships, building your own portfolio. You're too talented to just be translating what I hand you. You should be identifying opportunities, bringing in new business. Jessica turned to look at him. You're talking about making me a partner. Eventually, yes, if that's something you want. I'm not rushing you, but I see the potential. You're smart, capable, and you understand the nuances of this work better than most people I've employed. Why not let you build something of your own within the company structure? It was an opportunity beyond anything Jessica had imagined, a real career, not just a job, a path forward that utilized all her skills and intelligence. I want that, she said. I want to build something. For myself, for Chloe's future, for us. Then we'll make it happen. Gabriel kissed her forehead. Together. The word echoed in Jessica's mind as they stood there wrapped in each other's arms. Together. It was what they'd been building toward all along, through crisis and danger and unexpected love. The rain-soaked night that had brought them together felt like a lifetime ago now. So much had changed, so much had been tested and proven. And through it all, they'd chosen each other. Not perfectly, not without complications, but genuinely and completely. Outside, the city glittered with possibility. Inside, a family formed not by blood, but by choice stood at the threshold of something new. And for the first time in her life, Jessica Turner wasn't afraid of what came next. 6 months passed like pages turning in a book Jessica never wanted to put down. The autumn that had witnessed Ryan's final exit gave way to winter, then spring, each season marking new growth in ways both literal and metaphorical. Gabriel had been true to his word about expanding Jessica's role in the company, and she found herself not just translating, but consulting, advising, building relationships with clients across 3 continents. Her income tripled, then quadrupled. But more than the money, it was the respect she commanded, the expertise she'd developed, the way Gabriel introduced her at business dinners, not as his translator, but as his partner in every sense of the word. Chloe flourished too. Her grades climbed, her confidence grew, and the wariness that had shadowed her eyes since the divorce finally faded completely. She talked about colleges now with genuine excitement, Georgetown for international relations, maybe Columbia to stay close to home. Gabriel had started setting aside money for her education without being asked, a trust fund he'd mentioned casually one evening as if it were the most natural thing in the world. She's brilliant, he'd said when Jessica had tried to protest. Brilliant people should have opportunities. Let me give her this. Their life settled into a rhythm that felt both comfortable and thrilling. Gabriel officially moved into the apartment in February, his clothes appearing in Jessica's closet, his books mingling with hers on the shelves, his presence transforming the space from a place they lived into a home they shared. Chloe had rolled her eyes at the domesticity of it all, but Jessica caught her smiling when Gabriel made Sunday pancakes or when he helped her practice her debate arguments. But even in paradise, shadows linger. The call came on a Tuesday in late April, just as Jessica was finishing a conference call with a textile manufacturer in Milan. Gabriel's assistant Maria, her voice tight with something Jessica couldn't quite identify. Jessica, I need you to come to the office. Now. It's urgent. What's wrong? Is Gabriel okay? He's fine. Just please come. I'll explain when you get here. Jessica's hands shook as she grabbed her purse and keys. She texted Chloe that she'd be late, then caught a cab to Midtown, her mind racing through possibilities. An accident? Legal trouble? Another threat like the one from months ago? The office was unusually quiet when she arrived. Maria met her at the elevator, her normally composed face drawn with worry. Gabriel's in his office. He asked me to bring you straight back. Maria, what's happening? It's better if he tells you himself. Gabriel was standing at his window when Jessica entered, his back to the door, shoulders tense. He didn't turn around immediately, and Jessica's stomach dropped. Gabriel? He turned then, and Jessica saw something in his face she'd never seen before. Fear. Real, genuine fear. Sit down, he said quietly. You're scaring me. What's wrong? Please, sit. Jessica sat on the leather couch, her heart hammering. Gabriel came and sat beside her, taking her hands in his. His grip was tight, almost desperate. I got a call this morning from an associate in the organization, someone I've known for 15 years, someone who's always been reliable. He told me there's been chatter, rumors that I've gone soft, that I'm prioritizing personal relationships over business interests, that I'm vulnerable. Vulnerable how? Through you. Through Chloe. Gabriel's jaw tightened. There's a contract out. Not official, not sanctioned by anyone with real power, but dangerous nonetheless. Someone wants to send me a message by hurting the people I care about. The room tilted. Jessica felt cold all over. Who? Why? An old competitor. Someone I outmaneuvered on a deal last year. He lost significant money and pride, and apparently he's been stewing on it. Now he sees an opportunity. Hurt my family, prove I'm weak, maybe force me into a position where I have to negotiate from a place of fear. You said there's a contract. You mean like a hit? Someone's been hired to… Jessica couldn't finish the sentence. To frighten you, primarily. Maybe kidnap, hold for ransom, force my hand. I don't think he wants you dead. That would be too far, would invite retaliation he can't handle. But hurt? Definitely. Traumatized? Absolutely. Jessica's breath came in short gasps. She'd known Gabriel's world was dangerous, had accepted that intellectually. But this was different. This was concrete and immediate and terrifying. What do we do? I'm handling it. I have people tracking down who took the contract, where the threat is coming from exactly. I'm reaching out to intermediaries who can negotiate a stand-down. And in the meantime, you and Chloe are going somewhere safe. Where? I have a property upstate. Secure, isolated, with security personnel I trust absolutely. You'll go there today, stay until I've resolved this. Absolutely not. Jessica pulled her hands free, standing. I'm not running. I'm not hiding with Chloe in some compound while you handle this alone. Jessica, no. Listen to me. I didn't sign up for this relationship to be protected like some fragile thing that needs to be locked away when danger appears. I signed up to be your partner. That means facing problems together, not you shielding me from every threat. Gabriel stood as well, his expression torn between admiration and frustration. This isn't about shielding you from every threat. This is about keeping you alive. If something happened to you or Chloe because of me, because of my business, then we'll make sure nothing happens, together. What do you need? What can I do to help you resolve this? You can stay safe. That's what you can do. That's not good enough. Jessica moved closer to him, placing her hands on his chest. Gabriel, I love you. I trust you. But I also need you to trust me. Trust that I'm strong enough to handle this. Trust that I won't break if things get difficult. I know you're strong. That's not the question. Then what is the question? Gabriel's hands came up to cover hers. The question is whether I can live with myself if my choices put you in danger. Whether I can justify involving you in a world that might destroy you just because I'm selfish enough to want you in my life. You're not selfish. You're human. And I'm already in your world, Gabriel. I have been since the night in the park. Hiding from this threat doesn't change that reality. They stood there, the office silent around them, both knowing this was a turning point. Jessica could see Gabriel wrestling with himself, the part of him that wanted to protect her warring with the part that respected her autonomy. If you stay, he finally said, you do exactly as I say. When I say run, you run. When I say hide, you hide. No arguments, no hesitation. Can you do that? Yes. And Chloe goes upstate. Non-negotiable. I won't put her in the line of fire. Jessica wanted to argue, but she knew he was right. Chloe was still a child, still vulnerable in ways Jessica wasn't. Okay, Chloe goes somewhere safe, but I stay with you. Gabriel pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. You're the bravest person I've ever met, and the most stubborn. I learned from the best. That evening, they sat Chloe down and explained the situation. Jessica watched her daughter's face cycle through fear, anger, and finally determination. I don't want to leave you, Chloe said. Either of you. I know, baby. But this is the safest option. Gabriel has people who will protect you, and it's only for a few days while he handles things here. What if something happens? What if this person hurts you or Gabriel and I'm not here? Gabriel leaned forward, his voice gentle but firm. Chloe, I need you to trust me. I've been handling situations like this for a long time. I know how to navigate them, how to resolve them, but I can't focus on that if I'm worried about your safety. Please, let me send you somewhere secure. Let me know you're protected so I can do what I need to do here. Chloe looked between them, tears shining in her eyes. Promise me you'll both be okay. Promise me you'll come get me when it's over. I promise, Gabriel said. We both promise, Jessica added. The next morning, Chloe left with two of Gabriel's security team, a woman named Sarah, who was former military, and a man named Marcus, who Jessica recognized as the doorman from their building. She hugged her daughter tight, breathing in her scent, fighting tears. I love you. Stay safe. Do what Sarah and Marcus tell you. I love you too, Mom. Please don't do anything stupid. Never. After Chloe was gone, the apartment felt too empty, too quiet. Gabriel had moved them to a different property, a penthouse in a building he owned, with security on every floor and cameras monitoring every entrance. It felt like a gilded cage, but Jessica understood the necessity. Gabriel worked the phones constantly, calling in favors, making deals, applying pressure in the careful, calculated way he'd perfected over years in this business. Jessica listened and learned, understanding for the first time the full extent of his network, the depth of his influence. He wasn't just an import businessman. He was a power broker, someone who connected disparate worlds and facilitated impossible transactions. People owed him. People feared him. And he was calling in every debt, leveraging every relationship to neutralize this threat. On the third day, he got the break he needed. I found him, Gabriel said, hanging up from yet another call. The man who took the contract. He's a freelancer, works for whoever pays. No loyalty, no particular skill, just desperation and a willingness to hurt people for money. What are you going to do? I'm going to make him a better offer, pay him double to walk away and tell me who hired him. That simple? That's simple. Men like him have no code beyond money. Outbid the original contract, and he'll switch sides without a second thought. Gabriel made the call that afternoon. The negotiation took less than 10 minutes. The freelancer agreed to meet in a neutral location, a coffee shop in Queens, ironically not far from where Jessica and Chloe used to live. I'm coming with you, Jessica said when Gabriel started to leave. Jessica, no arguments. You said I could stay if I followed your instructions. I'm following them. I'll stay in the car. I'll keep my head down. I'll do whatever you say. But I'm not staying here alone wondering what's happening. Gabriel studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Stay in the car. If anything goes wrong, you drive away. Don't wait for me, don't try to help, just go. Agreed? Agreed. They drove to Queens in one of Gabriel's unmarked cars. No driver this time. Just the two of them and the weight of what they were about to do. The coffee shop was busy with the late afternoon rush, people coming and going without any awareness of the transaction about to take place inside. Gabriel parked where Jessica could see the entrance. I'll be 15 minutes, maybe less. You see anything suspicious? Anyone who looks wrong, you call this number. He handed her a phone, not her regular cell, but a burner. That goes directly to my head of security. He'll extract me within 2 minutes. Be careful. Gabriel kissed her, hard and fast. Always. She watched him walk into the coffee shop, watched him find a table near the window where she could see him. A few minutes later, a man approached. 30s, nondescript, the kind of person who blended into crowds. The freelancer. They talked. Jessica couldn't hear the words, but she could read body language. Negotiation, agreement, the exchange of something, money for information. The meeting lasted exactly 12 minutes. Then Gabriel stood, shook the man's hand, and walked out. In the car, he handed Jessica a piece of paper with a name and address written on it. That's who hired him, Antonio Ricci, small-time operator who thinks he's bigger than he is. The freelancer confirmed Ricci wanted you frightened, wanted photographic evidence of you being terrorized so he could use it as leverage against me. What happens now? Now I pay Antonio a visit and explain why that was a catastrophically poor decision. This time, Jessica didn't ask to come. She understood this part was Gabriel's alone, the ugly but necessary confrontation that would end this threat permanently. She waited at the penthouse, pacing, trying not to imagine worst-case scenarios. Gabriel returned 3 hours later, his knuckles bruised but his expression satisfied. It's done. Antonio won't be a problem anymore. Did you? Jessica couldn't bring herself to ask if he'd killed the man. No, but I made it very clear what would happen if he ever threatened anyone I care about again. I also ensured certain information about his business practices reached the ears of people who care very much about such things. He'll be too busy dealing with his own problems to think about me for a very long time. And the contract? Cancelled. Paid off. The freelancer is leaving the city tonight with enough money to start over somewhere else. He won't be coming near you. Jessica felt the tension that had been coiled in her chest for days finally release. So it's over? Really over? Really over. Gabriel pulled her into his arms. We're safe. Chloe's safe. And Antonio learned a very expensive lesson about what happens when you threaten my family. They called Chloe that night, told her she could come home. She arrived the next morning looking tired but relieved, hugging them both so tightly Jessica's ribs ached. I was so scared, Chloe admitted. Sarah and Marcus were great, but I just wanted to be here with you. We're all together now, Gabriel said, and we're going to stay that way. But the incident had shaken something loose in Gabriel. Jessica could see it. Over the next few weeks, he became quieter, more contemplative. He started spending more time reviewing his business operations, having long conversations with his lawyers and accountants. Finally, on a Sunday morning in May, he told Jessica what he'd been planning. I'm getting out, he'd said simply. They were having breakfast on the penthouse terrace, the city spread out below them in morning light. Jessica set down her coffee. Out of what? The gray areas. The questionable transactions, the clients who bring danger into our lives. I'm keeping the legitimate import business. That's always been the foundation anyway, but the rest of it, the facilitating and the money movement and the relationships with people like Antonio Ricci, I'm done with it. But Jessica's heart was beating too fast. Gabriel, that's a huge decision. That's your entire network, relationships you've built over decades. It's also the thing that put you and Chloe in danger, and it's not worth it anymore. Nothing is worth risking what we have. He took her hand. When I thought about losing you, about what could have happened if that freelancer had gotten to you before I found him, I realized something. I've spent 15 years building power and influence in a world I'm not sure I even believe in anymore. And for what? Money I don't need? Respect from people I don't respect? A reputation that makes me feared instead of loved? You're loved, Jessica said softly. By me. By Chloe. And that's enough. More than enough. The rest of it, the danger, the moral ambiguity, the constant calculation, I don't want it anymore. I want a life where the biggest threat is a difficult translation or a wine shipment delayed by customs. I want to come home to you without wondering if today's the day someone decides to use you as leverage against me. What about the people who depend on you? Your clients, your network? I'll phase out gradually, make introductions to other facilitators who can handle their needs. Some relationships I'll maintain if they're purely legitimate, but anyone who operates in spaces that could bring violence into our lives, they can find someone else. Jessica stood and moved to him, settling onto his lap, her arms around his neck. You're sure about this? You're not just reacting to the threat? I'm sure. I've been thinking about it since before Antonio, since the night you told me you loved me, actually. That's when I started wondering if I could have both this life and a real future with you. The answer is no. So I'm choosing you. I'm choosing us. I'm choosing the kind of life where Chloe can bring friends home without us worrying about security protocols, where you don't have to wonder if a business dinner might turn into a crisis. I love you, Jessica whispered. So much. I love you too, and I want to marry you, Jessica Turner. I want to make this official and permanent. I want Chloe to be legally mine if she'll have me. I want us to be a real family in every way that matters. Jessica's eyes filled with tears. Are you proposing? Not yet. Not until I've fully extricated myself from the darker aspects of my business. I won't ask you to marry me while there's still shadow hanging over us. But soon. Once things are clean and clear and safe, I'm going to ask properly. I'm going to get down on one knee and offer you a ring and a future that doesn't include men like Antonio Ricci. And what if I don't want to wait? What if I want to say yes right now? Gabriel smiled, that rare, genuine smile that transformed his entire face. Then I'd say, you're even more remarkable than I thought. But I'm still waiting. I'm doing this right, Jessica. For you, for Chloe, for us. True to his word, Gabriel spent the next 3 months systematically dismantling the riskier elements of his business empire. He sold off certain assets, dissolved problematic partnerships, and transferred clients to other operators. It was delicate work, requiring diplomacy and careful negotiation. Some people understood and wished him well. Others were angry, seeing his withdrawal as betrayal. But Gabriel was immovable. He'd made his choice, and no amount of pressure would change it. Jessica watched him transform, saw the tension he'd carried for years gradually ease from his shoulders. He smiled more, laughed more, spent long Saturdays with Chloe teaching her chess and debating international policy. Started talking about buying a house outside the city, somewhere with a yard and space for a garden. In August, he took Jessica and Chloe to Italy. 2 weeks in Sicily, visiting the relatives in vineyards and olive groves that had started the family business 3 generations ago. Chloe fell in love with the countryside, practicing her Italian with elderly cousins who doted on her. Jessica fell in love all over again with Gabriel, seeing him in the place he came from, understanding the roots that had shaped him. On their last night, they had dinner at a small restaurant overlooking the Mediterranean. After the meal, Gabriel stood and offered Jessica his hand. "Walk with me?" They left Chloe with Gabriel's cousins and walked down to the beach, the sunset painting the water in shades of gold and crimson. Gabriel led her to a quiet spot where rocks formed a natural alcove, where the sound of waves provided the only soundtrack they needed. Then he got down on one knee. "Jessica Turner, you appeared in my life on a night when you needed help, and you proceeded to change everything. You showed me what it means to be brave, to be honest, to love without reservation. You took a chance on a man who lived in shadows, and you helped me find my way into the light. I'm cleaner now than I've ever been. My business is legitimate, my future is clear, and my heart is entirely yours." He pulled out a ring, simple and elegant, a diamond catching the dying light. "Will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life loving you and Chloe, building something good and honest and real?" Jessica was crying, nodding, pulling him up so she could kiss him. "Yes, yes, absolutely yes." He slipped the ring onto her finger and it fit perfectly, like it had been made for her. Like everything between them, it had seemed impossible at first, but now felt inevitable. They married in October, a small ceremony in Central Park with just close friends and family. Chloe served as maid of honor, her speech making everyone cry when she talked about how Gabriel had given them both a second chance at happiness, at safety, at believing in good things. Gabriel formally adopted Chloe a month later. She took his last name by choice, becoming Chloe Marino, and called him by his first name rather than Dad, because it felt more honest. But the love was the same. The commitment was the same. The family they'd built was real regardless of the labels they used. Jessica's career continued to flourish. Gabriel made her a full partner in Merino Imports, and together they expanded the company's reach, building relationships based on trust and quality rather than shadows and secrets. She started a small foundation on the side, helping single mothers get access to education and job training, paying forward the second chance she'd been given. On a cold February evening, almost exactly 2 years after that rainy night in Riverside Park, Jessica stood at the window of their new house in Westchester, the one with the yard and the garden and space for all of them to breathe, and watched Gabriel and Chloe building a snowman in the fading light. Her phone buzzed, a text from her friend Maya, checking in about weekend plans. Jessica smiled and typed back, then looked up at her family, at the life they'd built from crisis and chance and choice. 2 years ago, she'd been terrified and alone, running through a storm to save her daughter, with no idea that the stranger who stepped out of the darkness would become her entire world. 2 years ago, Gabriel had been solitary and dangerous, powerful but empty, protecting people as transactions rather than connections. 2 years ago, Chloe had been learning to be invisible, to survive rather than thrive, to expect nothing from the adults who should have protected her. Now Jessica had a career she loved, work that challenged and fulfilled her. Now Gabriel had a family worth changing for, worth building a legitimate life around. Now Chloe had a future bright with possibility, protected not by fear but by love. The snow continued to fall, covering their new yard in white. Gabriel looked up at the window, caught Jessica watching, and waved. Chloe did the same, her smile visible even from this distance. Jessica waved back, her ring catching the light from the house, and felt gratitude settle into her bones. Life wasn't perfect. There were still challenges, still moments of uncertainty, but they faced them together now, this family forged in rain and crisis, tested by threats and strengthened by choices. What had begun as a desperate cry for help in the darkness had become something neither Jessica nor Gabriel could have imagined. A love that transformed them both, a family that chose each other daily, a future built on honesty instead of shadows. Jessica turned from the window and went to join them in the snow, her heart full, her fears finally quiet, her life exactly what she'd needed it to become. And somewhere in the city they'd left behind, in a park where rain once fell and strangers once met, the world kept turning, kept bringing together people who needed each other, kept proving that sometimes the most unexpected encounters write the best endings. The snow fell. The family laughed. And Jessica Turner Marino finally, completely, came home.